Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Bubble Man's World. Welcome to Hash Church, episode 158. Did we miss an episode of Hash Church here recently? Because it feels like we might have missed the first ever Hash Church episode last weekend. Well, we did. I was camping. I tried to make it happen. Coming back from camping, I even tried to make it happen more. It did not happen. I want to apologize to everyone for missing our first episode, but we're back. We're here. We're rocking. We've got a Sunday show for you here set up. So I am going to send out the link to the panelists, and we'll see what they are up to today. I think I had an email open up here somewhere, didn't I? Didn't I have an email set up to all my friends? Yes, I did, and it is gone. I closed it. Closed it like the fool that I am. So I will send out that link again. Hope everyone's doing well. I want to actually say happy birthday to my good friend, Bingo Lombardi. And by good friend, I mean a random dude that I talk to a lot in a chat room. He's been a supporter of the Wake and Bake shows. He's been a supporter of the Hash Churches, and he's in chat right now. And I figure the best thing for us to do is maybe puff a little bowl for him. Oh my God. Oh, it's Mark. Oh, that's pretty good, Mark. Well played.
How you guys doing today?
We're doing really good. You got like Jerry Garcia and like a little wook. You got a little wook there?
Yeah, I got a little Wookiee here going
on.
He's got back from being on fish tour.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
Swinging glass and nitrous out in the lot. There he is.
There he is, selling Jerry Garcia bootlegs from '78.
No.
little Merle Saunders.
No, he's swinging some glass, just trying to make it back out to the West Coast.
Oh shit, he's swinging glass. All right, well, glass hash or ass, nobody rides for free. At least that's what they said on the bumper sticker. So how you been there, Mark? Missed you a couple weeks there.
Yeah, doing well. We got to say happy birthday to our friend Bingo, right?
Yeah, happy birthday, Bingo.
Yeah. So yeah, things are going well.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, I'm gonna take a bong rip for Bingo while we wait for the rest of the crew to make an appearance.
Yeah, Fish, of course, have announced that they're playing 4 shows at the end of the year in Madison Square Garden. So that means they'll have done 17 shows in Madison Square Garden in 2017. So that's kind of cool.
I tried to get some tickets. Didn't work out.
What'd you say about tickets?
I said I tried to buy some tickets for the 4-day run at Madison Square Garden. I figured, you know what? I just want to be a part of this in some way or shape or another. Even if I got to buy some tickets and give them away on my show, how fun will that be? But I never Madison Square Garden. I figured, you know what? How's it going, Peter? Long time no see, dude. Even if I got to buy some tickets and give them away on my show. Oh, you gotta mute the YouTube show. Madison Square Garden. I figured, you know what?
Oh yeah. Hold on.
Yeah, this is the classic. I even today after 158 times, I was like, oh, I gotta mute the YouTube video or my voice will start.
I'll tell you what, I'm super sorry that I missed the 3-year. I had strep throat, man. My kids got me all fucked up with the organisms. The microorganisms. Dude, I thought you were like MIA. I was just like, damn, Peter used to show up and now he's just like MIA. He must be busy. Oh, man, I love coming and hanging with you and having a Sunday bubble hash joint just in honor of you, bro.
Well, there you go, dude. I appreciate that. I'm down to have a little puff. Let's make it in honor of Bingo Lombardi though, because it's his birthday today. And well, shit, he's always in the chat room. He's always hanging out with us. And I just know that it makes him happy every time we mention his name, every time we say happy birthday, Bingo. Let's puff a bowl for Bingo.
Happy birthday, Bingo.
He's just one of those zany cast of characters that sits in chat waiting for church every week. And I tell you, Marcus, I was like in that group of people who were really worried about your safety, because when we didn't see an episode go up for there to have a chat, last Sunday, everyone started wondering, is there going to be an episode? And I immediately was like, oh, I hope Marcus is okay. I hope he didn't drive off of some, ravine somewhere, isn't stuck somewhere incommunicado, because it's very unlike you to have the episode already up there. And then as soon as the episode's up there, people start gathering and start having chat dialogue. And that's where Bingo is like one of the cast of characters that's in that chat every week with all kinds of interesting stuff to add and say. So
yeah, no, it was kind of crazy, dude. I mean, I ended up camping. I ended up out away from anything. And Etienne was like, I'm not going to be there for the next 2 weeks. Dr. Natasha was like, I'm going to be in Europe. And I was like, I don't really have anyone that I can get to even run this show. And I woke up Sunday morning and I was camping with no Wi-Fi. And I was like, I don't know how to pull this off. I don't know how to pull this off. So here's a bong rip for Hash Church, for missing Hash Church. Sorry for everyone that thought I was dead. I guess when you're consistent in this world and you miss something, people are really thrown off by that shit.
But it's not quite true, because Natasha was here in Amsterdam and she was partying with me and she didn't even remember you.
Oh, how soon we're forgotten. How soon we are forgotten.
In the Catholic Church, if you miss a week, you miss a session at church, I think it falls into that bucket of venial sins. I don't know what the difference between venial and mortal sins. I think you have to go to a confession booth to get down on your knees and pray that you missed an episode. So maybe we should all take a knee.
Take a knee. I'll take a knee.
Pray for forgiveness, I guess.
I'm feeling
it during the American anthem.
I even tried to come home that night. I tried to set up an evening sermon I thought would be a great idea, but my wife had been dealing with our kids for 4 days straight by herself. And it was just not the right thing to do, to come home and ignore her and the kids and go right into another show, when really I needed to pay attention to my children and I needed to pay attention to my wife. So I chose my family last Sunday. And so I hope that you guys can all forgive me. I do apologize for not giving anyone a heads up whatsoever. But sometimes that's the way it goes in the world of Hash Church. What's going on?
You chose wisely.
Yeah. How's it going, D420K? Mother lovers, how's everybody today on this fine fall weekend? Everybody eating turkey dinners tonight and all that stuff, or tomorrow, or both?
No, we don't have that. Only in Canada.
Yeah, that's in November in America. They do it in November, which is why the Cannabis Cup in Amsterdam was always on November Thanksgiving weekend. I must have done 20 fucking U.S. Thanksgivings in Amsterdam over the years. It was always nice. I don't know if you ever saw, Sam, but Doug would always buy Thanksgiving meal for the hoodlum guys, the hemp works, and the sort of bubble crew, as we were all kind of one at our booth. And we used to do the old the Thanksgiving dinners in Amsterdam for the Cannabis Cup.
Yep, my wife used to bake a big, giant, fat turkey almost every Thanksgiving.
Here we go. What do you think of this outdoor?
Check.
Check. You guys see this outdoor?
Yeah, it looks respectable.
All right, guess how much this outdoor is here in Canada?
$551.
$551. The price is right. Get on up here, Tony.
Oh, wait, that's Canadian dollars.
Dun, 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 dun.
That's about $10.
Yeah, it's about $9.53 American per pound of this herb. No joke. 600 Canadian dollars, probably 400 to 450 US dollars for this.
Yeah, but obviously they got you to buy it, so it works.
I didn't buy shit, man. People just give me buds.
Tell the truth.
They say, take these buds.
Weed like a little pussy.
All right, you got me.
Wow.
Sam just outed me on Hash Church.
Called you a pussy on the last
He just
hurrah.
called me a pussy. It's all good. There it is. Oh, fuck. Thank you for laughing that way, D. That's exactly how we needed to finish that particular.
Yeah, pussy.
Even I had a good laugh out of that one.
Fuck, that was a belly roller. That was just like Sam's going hard as fuck.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, well, Sam, have you even wished Bingo Lombardi a happy birthday yet?
No, but I'll sing it. Happy birthday to you, Mr. President.
Mr. President. That's pretty stat. You know what you don't know right now, Bingo, is that Sam is wearing the most beautiful Marilyn Monroe dress while singing that particular song. Hey, welcome, Wade from the House of Laughter. You are in the Church of Laughter right now. We're belly rolling over here this morning, brother.
I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah, you know, it's all good. I'm glad your internet's working and somehow the clouds cleared and you're able to visit us on this beautiful fall afternoon somewhere. Not here yet. It's 9 in the morning, but somewhere it's afternoon.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. It started getting cold. The flowers are filling in. Really grateful today. Really
Still a lack of precipitation down there.
We had a light sprinkling of rain.
That's what we've had
2 weeks ago, but that's about it. Yeah,
that's it as
You
well.
know what I saw, Wade? I saw in the news that the grape growers up in Northern California, it's been so hot and dry recently that the grapes are all withering up and they're having a real problem with it.
yeah. I don't know about the vineyards, but we have some wine grapes here. We don't really make wine with them, but they're turning into raisins on the vine.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been pretty
that's
dry.
What I
this
saw
summer.
in the videos. I saw they were harvesting it, and they had machines that were trying to set the real grapes from the raisins.
Mm-hmm. It's been a hot, dry summer in Northern California. After all that beautiful rain we had this last winter.
Yeah, it's been great for BC. I mean, all the people I know that have plants in the ground still, I mean, lots of people have harvested already. It's just been months of beating hot sun. And of course, anyone that grows in the Pacific Northwest knows well that it's kind of a throw of the dice whether or not the incredible rain, you know, like basically powdery mildew just is like, what's up? What's up, BC? Here we are. Boom. And just like people that have beautiful plants they just get decimated so quickly. So I know a lot of people are happy right now just with this endless sun that we've been getting. It's pretty damn sweet. All right.
Well, I feel grateful. It's really been beautiful weather.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel, I mean, man, I was camping last weekend. It was like perfect. You know, went camping the whole weekend and it never rained, which really like, it's not like I'm hate the rain, but it's just like fall in the Pacific Northwest. When it starts raining, it gets cold and kind of miserable quick. It can really come in and destroy things quickly.
I want to share a funny story about myself. This past week on Tuesday morning about 4:30, one of my dogs was making all kinds of noise in the middle of the night, and there was extra noises involved. And put on some clothes and grabbed a flashlight, went out to see what was going on, and a fairly good-sized raccoon had taken one of my dogs into the pond.
Whoa.
And oh yeah, and I had seen earlier in my life, I saw a dog get drowned by a raccoon. It wasn't my dog, but I saw it, and it was horrific. And this raccoon was climbing up on the head of one of my dogs. And I'm here to testify to a couple of things. One, it's a really terrible idea to go into a pond to try and separate dogs and raccoons.
Oh, man.
Because you can get tore up.
Jesus.
But the second thing I'm here to testify about is cannabis creams, creams that are formulated for pain relief. Really have remarkable antibiotic and antifungal properties. The wounds on my hands are healing up beautifully. And I did a little experiment a couple of days ago where one of my hands I slathered in a cream that we make, and the other hand I left it alone because there were so many bandages. But And then I showed it to my doctor, and I told him, he knows what I do, and we've talked a lot about it, but he can't recommend anything, of course. But I asked him, can you tell which hand I've treated with cannabis since this happened? And he took one look and he said, oh yeah, that one. And I said, you're right, because all of the wounds, all the inflammation and redness around all these bite marks had disappeared on the hand that I was using cannabis on, and were still pretty angry and inflamed on the hand that I hadn't used it on. Just a little testimony about taking care of your body.
I love your positivity. You come in to tell us you got attacked by a raccoon, and instead of being like, man, like, whew, I had a rough couple of days, you're like, the wounds on my hands are healing beautifully.
Just look, man. It's really a true story.
You saved your dog. Good fucking job, man.
Well, I guess the moral of that story is if you're going to wrestle raccoons, have some cannabis cream on you.
Or a flat brimmed shovel, like something
or a couple of coon dogs.
Yes.
I'm so sorry for the animal that messes with my doggy. I protect.
Yeah, raccoons have opposable thumbs, so they don't really fuck around.
He grabbed a hold. I grabbed a hold of him, and he grabbed a hold of me, and
that's what's scary.
Went back and forth, and
they got those claws.
And
they got those claws that go down. It's like whoa.
Yeah, no, dude. He went all the way down my wrists and tore up both hands.
I had about 5 of them jump my dog in the backyard, and they punctured his throat 15 times. He had 15 little holes in his trachea, and so he survived it. He survived that. He survived getting run over by a car. He survived getting attacked by coyotes. My dog's tough as shit.
Yeah, your dog's been run over a couple times, hasn't it?
Well, only once by a car. But he got run over by a little boy when he was a puppy on a bicycle. Yeah. That's how it all started. It all started with him getting run over by this bike, and then he started hating things on wheels, and he'd be attracted to them no matter how hard I tried to keep him away. He'd like break free and then go, fuck with cars, go bark at cars. So now I have the invisible fence, and he can't go anywhere, and he's alive and healthy and happy. So take care of your pets out there, man, especially living in nature. Like, that's not even bears. Imagine if the bear just came down and just like gobbled my dog, but like raccoons and people and coyotes, like it's an endless, they are no joke, John Vidal. They are no joke.
We are in their land. We've only been here a short time. They've been here forever.
Yeah. Not to mention, we're just like, they can live in the land and survive, and unless we have a lot of things to take care of us, we tend to perish. Like, we need to store food and have fire and like have a place.
Don't forget the internet connection.
And don't forget Wi-Fi internet connection so we can Skype late night bong rips with my good friend Skunkman Sam. Oh my God. What a funny episode of Hash Church today. I feel good about it myself. I think it's because I've eaten a pack of these gummy bears from the Cannabis. I'm just gobbling down a little bit of their stuff and puffing on some MK Ultra that I pressed last night.
Nice. Did you announce that this was a farewell episode, or did we?
No, not really.
What's up with that, Marcus?
Well, I just, I didn't necessarily announce that it was a farewell episode. I just kind of felt like I felt a couple of times with church. As much as I love the gatherings, it's sometimes overwhelming. Last week was overwhelming. I don't know if anyone can understand what I went through to miss the first episode in 3 years. I was literally having like nervous breakdown stress. And my wife was just kind of like, is it supposed to be about stress? Because it seems like it's kind of turned into a stressful thing that you're responsible for these people that you don't even know, but you want to give them this information that you're not sure that they even already don't know. Like, she's just like, what's the deal? And so I've been thinking about it. I wouldn't say necessarily that it's the end of Hash Church, but it's definitely like sort of a change in a sense, maybe some form of a.
Well, when I asked you about it, it was interesting because I kept missing a lot more this year, and I wanted to do a reflection today. If it's not like a farewell, maybe there'll be more, but like I think that we should reflect today because
No, we don't have to worry because I will start Cannabis Cathedral. I am now the Pope of Pot.
Well, it definitely, I think what he's saying is that, you know, there's a lot of responsibility that falls upon an individual at 9 a.m. on Sunday. I myself am surprised it went 16 plus episodes, because if I had a wife and kids and it was Sunday morning and it was 9 o'clock in the morning, oh, I would never hear the end of it. Like, so I commend you, the fact that you pioneered through the wife and kids for how many episodes?
158.
You gave up 158 Sunday mornings to spread information. So
Christmas
in a row.
In a row, bro.
Christmas morning while my 2 kids were opening presents in the other room.
Yeah, 100.
Join in.
And 58 in a row, where all the rest of the panelists and the rest of us, we'll chime in, we'll come and go. But like, my hat's off to you, you know, like you went, it's a strong run, man. I mean, and a tremendous amount of information that has gotten out to the community, the industry, the panelists that are here and the panelists that have come through. I mean, it's a wealth of information over 158 episodes. I mean, I think there's been some pivotal points in some of the conversations and how it popularized different movements, and also for all the patients that have come on and told their stories, some of the things we've raised attention to. When this thing first started, I remember we were talking about like the whole BHO craze, because there wasn't a huge solventless movement. And that's how kind of we started talking with Johnny B and Horatio and the core of us. We were saying, man, you know, this whole, you know, BHO's taken off, live resin's taken off. There was like this whole movement. And there was a fear that full melt or sift was just going to vanish into thin air. And there was a little light there, you know, like, well, there's got to be another way to create a solventless extract that can be popularized, and thus flower rosin, hash rosin, and everything that followed it.
Episode 25.
Episode 25. That's the one that changed my life. That
well, you know
awesome.
what? Both 25 and 30 were powerful.
Can you hear me?
I think, yeah, we can hear you, Johnny B.
Awesome. Morning, guys. Sorry.
I think also 30 was a very powerful episode. I believe it was 30 where Jessica Hawkins came on and told us about her daughter, Naya. Does that sound right to you guys, that it was episode 30?
Yeah, we all cried on that episode, didn't we? Everybody out there in the world.
And unless you didn't have a soul,
yeah,
you know?
Absolutely.
You didn't have a soul.
And I think a lot of people like that tune in, you know, for the first time, or even today or whatever, they just see a bunch of guys coming together, smoking a whole bunch of hash. And I would say this, that like, it's not, I don't do this every day. I don't wake up and just puff as hard as I can to get my day started. This was our religion. This was like the once a week. We're like, well, that's how Sunday started. It's like, well, I'd really love to wake up and smoke the different products that I have and this different stuff that I've gotten from people. And it was like how it started was, you know, we were smoking whatever solventless extracts we had and shooting the shit and then talking about information. And
I do smoke religiously every morning.
Well, you're retired.
He's not even joking. He's not even joking. He is not even joking.
I wish I had that kind of.
He's a religious atheist person.
You don't puff when you get up in the morning. It's the first thing I do every day. First thing I do. It's like,
I mean, I do too, but I don't hit 60 dabs in a row.
No, maybe 6.
Like that's when people remember how people forgot around episode 100, like, why is that guy hitting dab after dab after dab? And I was like, oh, I thought that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to hit it as much as possible. And then there was episodes where no one smoked anything, and I was the only guy puffing in the background.
For real.
There was episodes there where their conversations were so deep that nobody even smoked once.
Really? I
Yeah.
never smoked. Wow. I gotta smoke right now.
Let's smoke now. Let's bong rip.
Bong rip.
Come on,
everybody.
give us a bong rip.
Give us
a real one, Darren.
we each have to do 158 right now.
Well, I'm not going to say no.
I'll give it a
Better
try.
get busy.
That's like the 18 terp dip gauntlet we did there.
Hey. Hey, actually, what I really wanted to talk about was the most viewed Hash Church episode by almost like 4 to 5 times. And that is, in my opinion, episode 33. It is the Hash Church that D420K interviewed Jake's wife. What was her name again now?
Galen.
I wanted to say Galen. Okay, I'm on it. So yeah, and so that is one of the most watched episodes. It's only a 3-hour. And yeah, it's 109,000 people have watched that episode.
And you know, she still eats a copious amount of oil. I made her a batch just last week of the locomotion. She likes the best. She takes a teaspoon or a tablespoon. She eats as much that would knock any of us on our fucking ass every day, twice a day, morning and night. And she's 100 pounds, maybe 97 pounds. Tiny little lady. She has onset of Parkinson's, and she gets up and she's shaky, and she's a typical human being that gets up in the morning and looks after her dogs, looks after her kids. Everybody's grown up, everything like that, and herself last. If she would get on she's starting now to look after herself first, take that dose, a huge bong rip of locomotion rosin, huge teaspoon of the locomotion coconut butter, and she fucking rocks all day. She doesn't say it gets her high, it makes her normal. It makes her like everybody else, so she's not shaky.
It's kind of how I feel when I smoke lots. It just makes me normal. You know, that's the thing about cannabis. It gives me that balance that I need every day, and I think that's the reason why a lot of us use it is because it balances and makes us normal. Thumbs up.
Definitely for me, for sure.
Yeah, me too. I broke my back and my neck, and every morning I get up, my back fucking hurts, man, big time. One rip, and I'm.
Yeah.
It helps me completely. It takes it right away. I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh shit, my pain's gone. Fucking right on with my day.
It's hard to feel bad when you feel good.
Yep.
Did you see Mark Scialdone's little Jerry bear? Did you see that? What was that little thing there for a second?
That was a little Jerry Garcia with a little with a whoop. That was Chewbacca.
That's so cool.
Chewbacca was selling glass, flipping glass on tour. Apparently the cops took his case in Spokane and smashed it over a grate. I don't know the whole story, but it wasn't good.
I wish we all had our own little individual stuffed animal that would like resembled something. And we did this whole Hash Church thing for 158 episodes through Puppet.
Like Sam?
Yeah.
Dude, Sam showed his chin one time and people were like started a thread about it.
I was wearing a mask, but don't tell anybody.
I remember
that's all part of the thread.
Because I remember there was a time when God, this thing's been going on a while where my mother had gone through a divorce and she was living with me for a little while.
That's right.
And she was listening to your voice. She was like, "Who's this Mr. Bubble Man? What a pleasant voice. So much information." And he's like, "What's this going on every Sunday, Hash Church?" Because she was just like trying to figure it out. And one time she like tuned in secretly on the computer and she was listening and she was like, "You know, I get all the information that's being spread." And she's just an outsider looking in and she's like, what's up with Dr. Seuss? And I was like, "Oh, who's Dr. Seuss?" And then she's like, "Yeah, the little stuffed animal." And I was like, "What do you?" I was like, "What? Oh, yeah. The guy with." She's like, "Why is there a stuffed animal talking all this information?" She's like, "Why is there never a human there?" And I was like, "Oh, well, that person doesn't want to be known." And she's like, "Oh, it's so bizarre. You're like all in tune to this little Dr. Seuss puppet. And all this information's coming out of a little puppet." It was like so funny how she was describing like the panels, you know, and she was describing Mark Scialdone.
You notice I've got 2 little puppets there today. That's because Ryan is the myth and the rumor is that Ryan will show up any moment.
Oh,
Nice.
is that Pinocchio there?
That's Pinocchio, yeah. Not that Ryan ever has told any lies ever.
It's just funny that you made Ryan Pinocchio though. Of all stuffed animals that you have over there.
Yeah, of all, because we know you have thousands, Sam. We know you have thousands stuffed animals.
Put it this way: my granddaughter has thousands. That's true.
Oh yes, anyone that has kids knows the deal on stuffed animals.
I'll bet she doesn't have a Wookiee.
You should send her one.
Does not have a Wookiee.
So remember, we also did. All right, what are the other top 10? So we had that one. Can you quickly search that and view the top hits of the top 10, or is that hard to do?
It's impossible.
What about how many hours in the 150? Someone would have to count all the hours for every single episode, huh?
It's a lot.
It's not too bad. It's 158 calculations.
It just doesn't break it down very well the way it shows. But I would say hour-wise, it's been good.
So I would say what? You think 3.5 hours average?
Weird. Something just got deleted from YouTube. That's kind of scary. A Hash Church video, I hope didn't get removed.
553 hours on average of information. Scialdone's probably laid a master course out over the 553 hours. Oh yeah. And there's a lot of information that has gone on in those hours. Because think about a course. Think about how long you spend in a curriculum course. You only get an hour with the teacher. You could go 3 times a week for a couple months. You know,
one thing I just noticed was episode 37, where Lester Grinspoon shows up, is almost a 5-hour episode.
Yeah. That was one of my favorite episodes, by the way.
Then he shows up again in episode 43, and it's also almost a 5-hour episode.
How about the Rosin video when it first come out and the T-shirt press quick bam and parchment paper out? That was pretty cool.
That was
with soil grown
soil grown, yeah.
Yeah, that was episode 25, and for whatever reason, I'm kind of in disbelief. It only has 27,000 views. Yeah, you had AJ, asshole sour guy. You had Pinsky. You had Jibs with you.
Yep.
That day, that was, I think even Giddy Up was there.
Yep. When I was in Denver.
Yep. And then Soil Grown dropped a whole lot of knowledge. That's amazing that Giddy Up was in the room where Soil Grown like did the 1-inch punch to BHO, the Bruce Lee, just like, whoa!
Yeah, it was that moment for sure where he's like, all right, guys. He's like, so basically I just got this T-shirt press here. I made a few modifications on a washer. I just take a bunch of bud, I crush it up, I put it in here, and I press down on it, and I wait, and I do this. And he like explains the whole thing, and you're like, and he opens it up, and you're like, oh, damn, there's oil there. And you don't think it's a lot, but then he shows you slabs of the oil that he's collecting. You're like, oh, he's a madman. He's just pressing flowers like crazy.
Yeah, no, it's up there. It was up there with
Rosin. I can't get enough of this shit. It works.
It was up there with Bubble Hash, and the showing people Bubble Hash in the late 90s was very much up there with showing people Rosin. Being it. Go ahead, Sam.
Marcus, what was the name of the guy who showed how to mash it with a big spoon? A dry sift on the side of
the silver bowl that's heated.
Stainless steel bowl.
That was Chadwick, and Chadwick did that under the name Compassion with a PH.
That's right, yeah. And I tried it; it worked, but I couldn't make it pure and clean because, I wasn't putting it in any kind of a little bag.
I just don't think it was the I tried it also. There was just not like his photos were impeccable. But the method just wasn't easy enough for it to catch on the way, and especially because straight up that whole pressing, buds, I think it really, really happened based on how Soil Grown told the story. It was like, he was doing this with hash, pressing hash.
It definitely happened because of the way that he did that. But I'm just saying somebody had tried to do it earlier. That's all.
Oh gosh,
yeah. Especially to resin, but the actual flower part, I think.
No, I think he might have been first. Yeah, because Compassion didn't do it with flowers. He only did it with either dry sift or water hash.
And that bowl thing's been around a while because when I started growing in the '90s, and it was like early 2000, I remember having a pot with a little water, turned it on, put a silver bowl on it, just put lots of keef in it with a spoon, pressed it, and it was like this sweating, like yellow hard yolk.
Yeah, because he posted it in like 99, 2000.
Yeah, exactly. And then I tried it. The problem was, which was like very difficult, was once you have it on the bowl, was using a razor on a curved surface.
Exactly.
And you were like trying to get all this, like what barely was there out.
Well, that was the problem, and the other problem was you kept getting resin, dry sift, into the stuff
yeah,
that you would stuff to the bowl. So it was
exactly.
possible.
Yeah, so it was like, not only was it like probably a 30% yield, it was basically like if we were talking about grapes like we always do, it was like throwing grapes in a bowl and just smashing them once and then just taking like 80% of the guts and all the stuff out. Just a little bit of the juice was there, and you're trying to like capture that, you know? It was like very hard. But it was the next step after what we called like Quizzo or whatever, quick wash, where you take you remember that stuff in the 90s? Where you like quick wash with ISO and had like a glass tray and let that stuff sit out.
We never had to use ISO. We always used ethanol, but really, really cold ethanol with a sonicator for 30 seconds. And it came out beautiful yellow color oil.
Yeah, but you remember quick wash?
Yes, I remember, but I never used it.
Yeah, it was. I remember like 97 or 98 when I went home for Christmas. I'd made some of that stuff, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was like somehow used alcohol. I can't remember exactly what I did. It was alcohol and something, and it was like I put it into a glass tray, and it was like evaporated the alcohol off, and then you collected it with a razor. And it was like a green kind of hash, but it was like this little tech that people were doing back in the day. But I remember, I mean, if you smoked it, it really fucked you up. But I remember that was the first time it was like any kind of concentrate. It's like at Christmas time.
Dude, I'll tell you, 99, the first time, well, it was 98 actually, but 99 when I was able to start selling the bags and showing people this hash that looked like stained glass windows from a church was always just like the most, nobody had it. Like nobody had it. Everyone just, it was an unbelievable time to be the bubble man, because I'll tell you, every person I showed, everyone was just like, fuck, that's some fucking crazy shit right there. When I pulled out that 73 bag, every time the eyebrows went like from this to up here. It was just the full eyebrow raise. It was like, oh yeah, you just saw something that you've never seen before. Holy shit. I can't believe it. Just wait, dude. Just wait. And it was just something really, I'll never forget it. It was reminiscent a little bit of the rosin thing, you know, being at Cannabis and at the booth there with Javier at Medical Seeds and showing like Urban the Urban Grower, Matt the Great Gardener, DNA, like Crockett, like all of these guys had never seen this process before. And we were showing them with a little hair straightener right at the booth. That shit was pretty fucking cool. Jeff Church was there doing demos.
You called me.
Yeah.
From that experience, you're like, bro, take the 73 or the 90 5-star plus and press it. I'm like, why would you do that? You're like, just do it. Go get a 25 and do it. And we were doing it with like other stuff. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. And then like I remember running to the lab and in Denver and doing it. And then when I pressed it, it was like this. It came out like clear, and then it dried white. And I was like, whoa.
Shit, I went and cut up all my 25 micron drying screens. I got them still upstairs. I still press with those pieces that I cut there at the beginning, like yesterday.
Yep. I would say one of the most important things I think that helped us in this discovery was like became fascinated with terpenes in those episodes, but it's really interesting to look at them when you're making a hash rosin or a flower rosin, because of the nucleation, or like, oh, why does it go from an oil to a butter, and like your mind just automatically wonders what's going on there. And I think that of recently, like it finally reached kind of that the final understanding, if you will, where we all kind of we get it, where there's a breakout that's happening in that process too, where, you know, at some point THCA can be broken out and separated from its oils and lipids and all of its things. And so, you know, whether you're repressing rosin a second time, like we talked about, to separate the THC and all the oil, or if you let it naturally separate in high concentration of terpenes. That whole thing was discovered during Hash Church, like during these episodes where we were turning distillate into crystalline, and like conceptually what terpenes actually do in the process. So, and now there was that recent study. I don't know if you guys talked about it before.
The one I sent you?
Yeah, what'd you think of that one, Scialdone? That was through Proton NMR. I wanted to ask you that.
There was a recent study that talked about using NMR to characterize strains, which I think, you know, I talked about doing a few years ago. But there's this other study that looked at the high temperature degradants of terpenes. Is that the one?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I tell you what, before I go there, let me go back to something I just wanted to share before I forget it, which is that I think whether, you know, this is like life imitating church or church imitating life, I don't know which one it was, but I think one of the most important things that the rosin thing did was it enabled people to make oil anywhere, regardless of whether or not they have access to it. So like here in Pennsylvania or the states out east and everything, people were sweating because, again, there is no regulated industry, at least there wasn't until recently, that made, you know, closed loop butane extracted oil. So all the kids were sweating on how do you get oil, and they didn't realize it. And then basically a way that with their girlfriend's hair straightener and some really good nut, they could make oil. And that was extremely enabling for
make oil safely, because people have been making oil for years prior to that, but we've had an increase in people blowing up and burning themselves very badly.
Exactly. And I think that like a lot of people didn't believe it until the Hash Church or other things on Instagram. I mean, everyone started posting, you know, squishing nugs and squishing hash. And now you look at, again, I think what Tony was alluding to before, which is this sophistication of this method, which can actually be used to purify THCA itself from extract, which is, again, the star of the show, right? THCA, that's where everyone wants to be. I think when it goes back to, like you were saying, these methods on bowls and all these things were just sort of like ideas on how to get the oil out. What rosin did is it made it a practical method that anybody can do, you know, and you didn't need to have, you know, access to good butane, or you have to worry about residual solvent because there's no solvent issue. So it was just an easy way to make safe oil. And again, like kids in the dorm who were smoking weed, those kids got caught and they got thrown out of the dorms. The kids who were taking that same nut, pressing oil and doing dabs, they're in the dorm fine because they weren't there. There's no stink in their room. So I think kids and the whole generation of people acclimated to doing concentrates, and they needed to have a way, and rosin was that way that they can, you know, and I think, you know, whether church had something to do with it, we were part of that wave of getting the information out. And you know, I mean, now there's 100 different presses that you can get, and you know, it's still just a straightener works just fine if it's the right pressure and temperature. And I don't buy a bag of nug until I squeeze it and find out what the oil content is, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, that's
exactly my first hair straightener. This is the one that everywhere. I showed everybody. I used this hair straightener in the clump, and I did pod TV. I did everything. I did that the BHO video just because I thought it was just hilarious. And you know what? Truly, this hair straightener was a change in my life.
Props to Nick Bradley for coming out with the DeWalt.
The DeWalt.
Yeah, because he was the one that added the press. Remember when you added that press thing to your?
Oh yeah, no, I used the Gerwin. That was the first thing I did. I had my
Yeah,
Gerwin.
but it was Nick who did it with a DeWalt first. So I'm giving props to Nick Bradley from Hash Church. Yeah, because he was.
I know one guy had
got to give him
they
props.
put it on thing. We got another guy who put it on vices that led to T-shirt presses that led to the Sasquatch that led to all different things. We got cannon clamps now. There's all kinds of great clamps out there. Squish and Rosin, big companies.
Well, I think also it brought a lot of attention to the growers and the method of growing, because some of the benefits that we talked about when you're using a solvent and you're going through that process, it's a refinement and you're trying to decontaminate and centralize your result. Like if your goal is to get all THCA or all THC, I mean, that's why you use solvents. And if you know what you're doing, you can have a little bit more, I guess you'd say, forgiveness. Whereas going through like a rosin, you're smoking everything that was on that plant. So I think what it did, because I remember there's that big explosion of rosin, and then there was that realization of, wait a minute. We're pressing all of the possible oils and everything on that plant through a little tiny screen, and out comes oil. So what about the bug juice? What about this? We started joking about, but then it became a real thing, because you're going to press PM, you're going to press pesticides, you're going to concentrate everything else. So now put a microscope back on the growers. Okay, there is this organic at home way to make oil, but then what's the flower?
The plants have to be clean.
Yeah, so I think that Hash Church also helped there, because we brought a lot of attention to organic growing, clean medicine, and we were talking about that first, where we were saying, oh, well, you're right. There was a lot of BHO makers. There was all memes and all kinds of crazy stuff going back and forth. Like if you smoke rosin, you're gay, or turns you gay or something. It was all these like back and forth. But at the end of the day, they are, it did bring a lot of attention to that. So, when something becomes easy like that you could do at home, you just got to be extremely aware and conscious of the actual starting material, because you're concentrating whatever that grower put on there. That's why I still, I've always liked just kind of like washing the plant first, or trying to separate the resin. Even if you made so like in outdoor, even if you just did everything dry sift, you still could wash the dry sift and just wash off anything that would be on the resin. So
I just want to say that I feel extremely gay after smoking rosin.
Oh yeah,
it just brings my levels up. I feel happy. I feel irie. I feel gay.
Yeah, I mean that's the point of it.
It's hard to feel bad when you feel good.
They make resin in Jamaica. They make it with a bat, and they call it Batty Boy hash.
Oh my God,
that is not true.
That's not true.
Derogatory term. Sam has the lowbrow humor. That's the.
Well, at least it's like the ghost. It's like in the movie Ghostbusters, when they spray you with the pink gel, of the goodness, and they're like, and then the guys get sprayed down, and they're just like totally in love, and hey man, everything's great. That's like the rosin experience. I'm all right with that experience. At least you're not filled with hate.
You know what? Well, that's just it. Could you imagine the rosin community making memes that are like, if you smoke BHO, you're gay? Like, think of that's some 12-year-old ignorant shit right there. Like, that's just very strange to bring in someone's sexuality and to try and it's like, I'm just going to attack.
Wait a minute.
I'm going to attack.
They're selling a new kind of pot called sex pot. For women, it's supposed to make you have more and more frequent and longer orgasms. So that's the same thing, ain't it?
Time out. Women have orgasms?
Well, they do unless they're married to you.
I just was getting a laugh at a couple of the married guys on the panel. It's fine. A little laughing. A little having fun. All right. King Justin Hudson. That seems a little off, but...
all right, Tony.
So you never got into that, yeah, because I did, because I do think there's some valid information there, and then you got.
Well, let's lead up to that paper, because that paper, there's a part of the discussion that we completely missed, which was another conversation that Hash Church was very much involved in and helped propel, and you yourself, Tony, was a huge part of, which is Blue River and the first cannabis-derived terpenes that are actually made available to people so they can smell them and try them and experience them. And this was also a huge part of the conversation that I personally saw grow out of Hash Church and spread like a wildfire. So that's, leading up to the paper that we're about to discuss is the conversation that was, I mean, keep in mind, it's not like we started this conversation. Sam started this conversation almost 20 years ago. But it goes to show you when the time is right, the time is right, because even Kay from Trichome Technologies had been on it for, I don't know if it was 2 years or 3 years, or if he wants to say 10 or 15 years. But the bottom line is nobody was doing shit about it until Tony and Horatio stepped into the ring, until they both decided, I'm going to try my hand at making some terpenes. Boom! Tony had terpenes like fucking 2 weeks later. I couldn't even believe it. I was like, what the fuck, dude? That's crazy. Like, what do you mean you just made terpenes? And then I kind of shamed Horatio maybe a couple of months later. I was like, listen, Tony had those terps like a week or two later. You got to get on the ball. And Horatio had terpenes like maybe a week or two after that. And for me, those were the first two available terpenes. That's great that Sam was the first. He showed me pure, fruit-based terpenes or plant-based terpenes and the modulating effect that they can have on cannabinoids. And Kay was one of the first people to talk to me about cannabis-derived terpenes and terpene profiles, but Tony was the first person to put that shit in my hand, to put it under my nose, to put it in my dab rig, and Horatio was the second. So I got to give both of those guys mad props before we start this next part of the conversation, because that was as big as Rosin, in my opinion, making these terpenes become available. And not only that, but lighting it's funny because I remember Kay being like, oh, I was a little worried about kind of wanting to put it out there. He was worried that people were going to do it wrong, this, that, and the other thing. And that's always the one side of things. And then you have the other side of things, which is, well, why don't we just put it out into the world and we can let the world decide, and we can all kind of bioassay and go through this together. And that leads us up to where we are going to talk.
Well, and I would add to, I would say this, that in Johnny B was there a lot of the times too, when we were in Amsterdam and did this. And there was even, and a lot of people missed this, that there was like, when we were doing the steam tech, I was like, oh yeah, this is basically the fail tech. And there was the terpenes were different, and there wasn't a purity or stability factor to it, or replication. And so
Kay called those artifacts, barely shadows of their former self.
Right. And the other issue is people don't realize, but we had this conversation for 8 months, maybe even a year before it actually got released.
Oh yeah.
Because the whole goal, I was trying to get these terpenes back into the decarb and activated versions of Prana and stuff. But these were just like little side techs that were like, oh, maybe we could smoke this. But I remember it was a year of us talking about it, and I had the same issue of releasing it, because there's good and bad that comes with that. It'll get out there, people will try to do it. Some will do it with in a way that may harm people. And looking back, I think that like releasing, pure form terpenes without like the full studies always irritated me. So I just want to put it out there. I do feel that like we didn't know, and we had these conversations on Hash Church and said, what do you think a safe range is? How much is present in a flower? Flowers can have up to 8, 9. I've seen 10% terpene profiles on flowers, very rarely, but sometimes it's 1, 2, 3.
And much higher on a concentrate made from that same material.
Yeah, you could dry sift and full melt have hit over 10% terpene profile. So you knew that it was there. We were smoking it, but once you put it into pure form, people start dipping it. The whole dip and dabs and all of that stuff. Like looking back, how far terpenes actually go, and how far what the use is. Now I can turn 1 milliliter into 1,000 beverages. And and like back then it was like 1 drop per beverage. It was like
remember when we were just pouring like
it was horrible. It's like looking back, it's just like a little juvenile, So I would admit to the fact that like going that intense, but it's like anything else. You're like, you find something new and you want to see how far you can take it. And at some point you have to know, is this going to be okay for me as an individual? And if it's not, it's okay. You might still do it. You just need to know what the safety is. You know, they're just like, hey, jumping off the side of a building on a bungee cord may work. It may not. You're like, cool, I'm jumping. You know.
I know everybody showed you a lot of good stuff with regards to terpenes, but I want to be the first guy to show you a terpene being created. So this is a strain of different bacteria actually creating a terpene. So that bloom right there is an actual picture of a terpene in process. So I want to be the bacteria guy that shows you that.
So explain that a little more. So the red circle, is that a cell?
That's a terpene. That's an actual secondary metabolite from the combination of bacteria creating a smell and actually producing an exudate, essentially, or a secondary metabolite, which is a terpene bloom. There it is.
You know what? That's just like right on par for the Hash Church bar that has been set. I'm always glad when you show up, Peter.
That's pretty cool.
I wanted to share that with you. So I'm the guy that showed you a terpene bead. So we'll go all the way back to the small, right? The molecular. And you guys have done so much with it, and just so honored to be here with you guys.
Talking terps. Well, it is a big part of the conversation. As big as rosin, as big as anything else that we've talked about. That's a big one of the big conversations that came out of Hash Church for sure was just all of this interesting terpene information. And we're still like, it's why, you know, this discussion that we're going to have about heating up terpenes and heating up terpenes too hot and the degradation and what happens. It's why exactly when Blue River was started, that Blue River wasn't saying this is what you should do. You should take these and take huge giant dabs and inhale them. What we were doing ourselves was bioassaying that very thing. I was hitting pure terpenes through the vape exhale, and to this day, I'm convinced that it was good. It was in no way, shape, or form did it feel bad, but it was also a very delicate heat. It was a very small amount of terpenes. And did we ever get too much? Did we ever dip too much where I was like, that's not an enjoyable hit? Absolutely. In the beginning, Tony was the destroyer. Those first times in Amsterdam were
well, our temperatures are way off. Remember, we used to dab at 750, then 700, then 500. Now I'm like, anyone over 550, I'm like, ooh, yeah, no.
Well, honestly, for me, the vape exhale is one of the only units that does not degrade the rip in a way. Like I can hit pure terps off the vape exhale in those little quartz cartridges that you slide into the tube. And it is super enjoyable. You just, at any temperature, I have a hard time enjoying it off of any nail where it hits direct and evaporates. It's just too violent. And
now we have those really long, skinny glass pipettes. You just put a drop in it and you use no heat, and you just breathe it in. You just breathe it in.
Yeah. Well, that's also all of these little cool tops that have been designed that you can put terpenes into. So you have your little terp cap that you're hitting fresh terpenes that you're just not heating up at all, but it's going through the pipe and giving you that sort of, it's definitely one of the things that attracted us to cannabis. So it makes sense that in the near future that we will take it as far as it can be taken, that much science will be looked at, and that, we, the guinea pigs who are using these things in the next 20 or 30 or 40 years will be able to clearly show people the pros and cons.
Yeah. One thing to add on that before Scialdone goes into this, we once had a conversation about color and how I got in that argument where terpenes seemed to give off some kind of color because of all this different stuff that like if we had the same base of hash and we used different terpenes, we had different quote unquote color hash. Remember that, Mark?
Mm-hmm.
And then, or Scialdone. And then, so there's some things that I wanted to update on that because I've gone through a lot of profiles now and a lot of different ways of using terpenes, whether it's with like, a raw full spectrum with THCA, like from a hash rosin or a live rosin, or from flowers or activated versions. What I think it is so let's look at terpenylene versus humulene, right? So things that are very high in terpenylene. So you would get like we've got one that's like a Dutch treat, a Jack Frost would be, and they always produce a oil that's like like this particular color. It's never a butter. It's never never a butter. It's always an oil. It's always this particular color that comes out. Some people would think that, oh yeah, it's not a pure white color, so it's like this it's not as desirable, but it's always got that same kind of taste. And I think what it is, and that what I see is a limonene, beta-caryophyllene, and terpenylene. If those three combinations are the highest peaks, you get a certain consistency of the oil, which makes a certain reflection or color based on that profile influence. And if you look at something that's very high in THCA, meaning the plant itself and the resin on the plant itself was fresh and didn't really activate much, and you were able to get like an 80% rosin in THCA form, and you didn't have any terpenylene, and you had more of the humulene and the beta-caryophyllene and the pinenes, you would start to see more of a butter. And that has to do a little bit with the heads and things, but I found that it really has to do with the profiles. And then it comes down to heat versus no heat and different semi-activation points and different things. So what I thought was the color wasn't necessarily the color, but was more of the top tier profiles of these terpenes that have the influence on the consistency of the actual extract, if that makes any sense.
Somewhat.
Makes a lot of sense to me, Tony. It seems like terpenes in some way would be a sort of lubricant or solvent, if you will, to help.
My internet dropped out a little bit, Tony, so I didn't catch all of what you said. Could you go back and just ask the question succinctly?
Yeah, no problem. So what I was
I
just
missed
saying,
a little bit of what you said.
Yeah, I was just saying back then I thought it was the color was the terpene thing. And I'm saying later that I don't think it wasn't that at all. In fact, what it is now when so what we've been doing with our oil is taking like, extensive testing of the flower, then the extract, then our final like Trinity oil, and when you start to look at all of the different terpene profiles, because we're taking cannabis terpenes from the same variety and pairing them with the extracts, and they're the same terpene profile, but you get a different percentage and consistency. So as you go from 5 to 10 to 15 to 30%, if the trio of those terpenes, if the top one was terpenylene, almost every single time I've seen the oil come out like this golden sap. It's never butter. And so when you look at other ones like strawberry banana goo, it's always a white butter, no matter what. And so we talk about hydrophilic or hydrophobic and what they're doing with the moisture, but ultimately the terpene profile in the top three and the way that it's setting will change this consistency or this response, which then appears to change the color. But it's not a color thing. It's how the oils are reacting.
These are all high THCA extracts?
Yeah, and then if you take those butters and let's say try to double boil them down and semi-activate or activate, obviously the color then also changes as well. But yes, if we're comparing just straight as raw as you could go on whether it was a flower rosin or a hash rosin.
Yeah, so different combinations of terpenes have different solvating abilities in terms of their abilities to keep THCA in solution, right? So certain combinations of terpenes aren't going to be able to hold THCA in solution as well as other combinations. And so what you're seeing is just a manifestation of that. Certainly like ones that are much more solvating and the higher level terpenes that are found, or the sesquiterpenes like caryophyllene and which are less volatile, have different flavor profiles and sort of seem to be ubiquitous. It's just kind of like your trade-off on maintaining that terpene profile in the flower, from what I understand, and then bringing that through and reincorporating that into some processed, purified fraction of THCA. Is that's what you're doing?
Yeah. What I'm just
that's what you
what
do. And I think the way to view your question, again, just going back and viewing the whole terpene thing is kind of like a musical ensemble, like an orchestra, is that you have to set the volume of the orchestra correctly from where it was set in the plant, right? You can turn up the volume really loud, but then you're carrying, basically what you're trying to do is keep the relative in the terpenes the same, so the flavor in your consumable remains what it was in the plant, which is a delicate balance, especially when you talk about thermally treating any of these most sensitive of terpenes and monoterpenes. And as Sam has talked about, and we've talked about a bunch of times on Church, the curing chemistry that happens post-harvesting, and curing being separate from drying. So drying, bulk removal of water, but then a process by which there is chemistry that's happening still on the plant, but the plant's no longer alive, but there's sort of terpenes that are coming to their thermodynamic dead end before they actually present themselves in what now is a very, very different flavor than what you would get in a freshly frozen extract.
Yeah. So what I was getting at,
okay, go ahead.
Yeah, what you just said earlier, though, is really important. So terpenylene is acting like something more of a solubility solvent.
That's correct, right?
And so when you,
I mean, you know, like the holy waters, all those like high terp fractions, which have a lot of usually they're kind of like orange, sort of like a bright orange, more orange than a brownish. Those are typically high in terpenylene. Terpenylene's got one of these double bonds that could precess around the ring, and a variety of different geometric isomers, and all of these are different peaks in the GC, and they all have different, further oxidation manifolds. Some of them oxidize into terpenoids, and again, some of these degradation products that you're seeing. I was really excited when I first saw this paper come out, because from everything that we've been saying here on Hash Church, Tony, right? That, yeah, terpenes at room temperature are different than terpenes when you heat them up.
Of course.
That may have been like one of the first things I said on Hash Church, right? I go back to like when Horatio first dragged me in and said, "Hey, Mark, we're talking about chemistry. We need we need you to help us understand."
Yeah, that's how you got brought in.
It was a question around terpene stability and whether or not, and it was just before the Hashishine paper had come out, and I had said, look, these are reactive species. They have reactive double bonds, and a lot of these things, if you shine light on them in the presence of air, they form hydroperoxides, and then they start degrading into all kinds of different like methacrone and like other things that, you don't want to be deeply inhaling into your lungs. And, again, when this paper first came out, I was really excited because this study has to be done. But as I read the paper, and I became just a little disappointed on the level of science and what they did. And I think the most important thing that comes out of a study like this is not to critique the level of science, which to me, I give about a C-, to tell you the truth. I would have had that graduate student go back and repeat that thing like 10 more times. I would have had them do it different. I would have done the study differently. Let's just say it that way. But the most important thing that comes out of science that's published like this, which is maybe not the best, is this discussion that we're having right now on how important it is to do this and to do this carefully. And notice that they used NMR, which I'm excited about. And notice that what they're doing is they're showing a temperature dependence. And so if you pull data, Marcus, if you could share the that link in the chat room so our viewers can
yes
follow along. We got
See what I got
Chem
here?
Church
I
101
did.
here. Okay. So if you go to in that link,
I got it.
go to figure 1, which tells a lot. Okay. And what you can see is the temperature dependence as a function of methacrolene being measured at the nanogram level, which a nanogram is a 10 to minus 9th. It's a very, very exceedingly small amount of material, but clearly within the error bars of the measurement, you can see a temperature dependence on methacrolene being generated as a function of temperature. Now, 526 degrees C, let's see, that's almost 1,000 degrees, isn't it? Could someone do that conversion for me? It's like not like 9
hot.
It's hot, right? So again, I think that's an important finding from the study, but we've already talked about that before. So if you go to, let's see, what's their next table? Okay, scheme 1, they talk about some of the structures of a combination of myrcene, limonene, and linalool.
These guys aren't taking
degrading
low
through
temp
ice.
dabs. That's the problem. They are not taking low temp dabs. They're like,
Yeah, well, I
That's
think
the cleaning temperature.
they're taking glowies.
Right. Isn't that the take-home message that, that the chemistry, the degradation chemistry is a function of the temperature? But if you look now at table 1 down below where it says they're measuring both methacrolene and benzene at the nanogram per milligram level. Let's see, that's a part per million. So these numbers are in parts per million. 127 coming out of fire, OG. With limonene, I guess they're just doing this on neat.
This is also I think they clarified it wasn't like a triple molecular distilled oil. It was just this was like just BHO extraction.
Yeah, just some BHO, right? But I mean, I think that's valid for the study because this was
that's the average. Yeah.
Having. So if you go down to product quantification, I mean, I think these numbers are important here. So it says because dabbing topography, it's talking about being able to assess the temperatures. But what they're seeing is that with methacrolene, 185 plus or minus 11 parts per billion at a temperature of, again, 526, which is up around 900 degrees. Well, shit, don't fucking dab at 900 degrees. And look what happens when you drop your dab temperature 22. They're undetectable. Okay, so I think that this does tell the story of the temperature of the nail being very, very important. But I would have done a more detailed, more quantitative study. And again, I don't want to be critical too much. I think it's important that
How can we get that study happening, Mark? Because also everything you said combined with also hitting it off of different surfaces, hitting it off of titanium, hitting it off of sapphire, hitting it off of convection versus conduction.
Hit it off of sick.
Yeah. And also, I mean, I think what we've talked about here on Church, I mean, this is obviously one thing that you can investigate, which is that if you take material and you put it inside a vial and you put, the nail material in there, and now you heat that up, well, obviously it's got to be in a fused port silica. You can't do this just a regular glass. Don't try this at home, kids. But if that could actually be taken up to temperature now, you could actually study by headspace GC the different profiles of what you're getting by examining different nail materials. And Jeff Raber did a study for Hive Nail, again, some time ago on this. And I think Jeff's method, which I think was published, I want to say 2 or 3 years ago, was a little more sound than I think what I'm reading in this paper in terms of how they collected their sample. Here, I was excited about this until I found out that you needed a cigarette smoking machine, which is how they conducted their studies. And so I was like, oh, shit, how am I going to repeat this? They have a cigarette smoking machine. I got, what am I going to do? Go to one of my investors and say, oh, I need to buy a cigarette smoking machine to study this?
Don't you have access to Wooks?
Right, just put
But Mark, you'll have to admit that they were never finding this in herbal cannabis, which is smoked at, I believe, 451, And if they would have found it, it would have been reported a long time ago.
Right. So I think that where the trend goes, the more that these materials are in there, the less likely they're going to be pushed beyond the limit of detection. And again, thirdly, it totally makes sense that at the higher temperatures, you're seeing more degradation. That almost looks like a first, what we call kinetically a first order relationship, which is a typical in an Arrhenius sense. Arrhenius is a guy who figured out the mathematics for this a long time ago, that there's a linear dependency based on temperature, and that's totally to be expected.
That's exactly what it comes down to. Is the temperature, and besides the surfaces too, but the temperatures is super key. And what I also found was terpenes will organically degrade with a rosin. And what I mean by that is if you start with, say, a flower rosin that tests 80% and it's 76% THCA and 4% THC, and you take and you use the same terpene profile from that flower and saturate up to say a 30%, and let that sit 6 months, it'll be fully activated or very close to being activated, which then tells you that terpenes have this other effect and property that's going on too, which is what I thought was affecting color.
Right. There's an aging mechanism that's probably at work there. And again, that you're right, has a lot to do with not only taking something that starts out as its life being clear and turning color. I've seen that color formation happen on the rotovap. You're something down that's, basically colorless. By the time you get it down, it's like yellowish, and it starts to actually turn almost in front of your eyes because it's being exposed to now high concentrations of oxygen. In the plant, a lot of these things are protected because they live within the waxy envelope of the plant itself, and they're not being exposed to the levels of oxygen now that they're being sort of stripped from their plant protective, they're being exposed.
And
but
interesting
yeah,
enough on that, it does.
All terpenes, almost without exception, have a shelf life in that they'll either evaporate or they'll degrade into a mostly, yellow, darker colored material than from which they came.
And I kept flowers for a year in the same condition in a vacuum. And even over a year, the THCA on the flowers will convert over to THC. Not all the way, but it could happen at 25 or 30%.
I kept them for 2 years, not even in a vacuum, just on the shelf in the dark at room temperatures, and less than 10% converted from THCA to THC.
Probably just stuff that was air
600 kilos of them.
If you have a jar, Sam, like the stuff down.
No, they weren't in a jar. They were in a cardboard box. A whole bunch.
And they only converted. It only converted 10% in 2 years.
In 2 years.
That's interesting.
I was shocked and surprised.
Yeah, that's super interesting. What kind of variety was that?
Skunk.
Oh well, that's why it doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there was a protective envelope of terpene stink containing those buds, keeping oxygen.
After 2 years, the THC level was practically the same. Most of it was still in the form of THCA, but most of the terpenes were gone.
Oh, interesting. So, long story short, with that article, though, it's so when we were talking about concentrations of ppm. So think about this: if something has like any kind of solvent left behind or residual, and you hit it at a higher temperature with a higher concentration of terpenes, moral of the story is it's probably not so good for you.
I want to change the subject for a second, not very far away, but something Peter shared with us when he first came on, that picture of metabolites that are terpenes. One of the things I've been exploring is how soil biology changes what terpenes and how much of them express in the plants. And we were talking earlier about how purity of the plant is really important for the purity of the end product that we're producing. And my question is, how much effect really does soil biology or the biology in the soil and on the plants have to do with the terpenes that are going to be expressed by the genetics of the plant? I mean, there's going to be a certain terpene profile there just based on the genetics, but I have a feeling, or it's been my experience, I'll say it like that as the soil biology has improved in my garden and in other gardens I've seen and worked with, the terpenes not only increase in quantity in the plant material, and of course the plants are more vital, but it occurs to me that perhaps different species of biology enhance a plant's ability to produce more terpenes. Is that what that picture was suggestive of?
Yeah, and actually, if you'd like, what I can do is actually quantify exactly what you're talking about and give you a pretty comprehensive overview of exactly what that does on a biological level. So let me share my screen with you. Actually,
I think that's an important story.
Hold on.
Oh, wow.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is different strains of bacteria creating a terpene. So what we did with one of our hemp cultivators is we quantified the amount of bacteria that was in a treated and non-treated soil to increase the oil production. So right here, what you'll see is the microbes that we calculated in 1 gram of soil. So in the treated, we had 83 billion colony forming units per gram of soil tested. In the non-treated, we had 72,000 different microbes. And so what ended up happening was we saw a nitrogen boost within the leaf tissue analysis of treated plants. So this study was conducted by North Carolina Department of Agriculture. So we saw a 30% increase in leaf nitrogen content. Then we looked at phosphorus. Phosphorus is a big one for biomass. And so with an increased amount of biology, the plant is actually getting the physics that it needs to create terpenes. And so your micronutrients, your macronutrients are going up. Here's potassium. So again, this is in a highly biologically active soil. Now, all these nutrients are essential for the plant to have the physics it needs to create the different types of terpenes to protect itself in that soil. And what we saw at the end, so this was 500, we took 250 treated and then 250 non-treated plants with a highly biologically active soil. You know, why people say organic or growing with bacteria is good. And we found a 42.85% increase in the amount of oil that the hemp plant produced.
When you say oil, what are you referring to? Cannabinoids, other things, or just essential oil terpenes?
Yeah, this was just the CBD analysis that the laboratory did.
So cannabinoid oil,
which could be head size or just oil content in general of the plant. That's still significantly. It's not like it was like a 4%. It's 42%.
Oh, regardless of what it is, it would just be interesting if the same thing was done to plants that are producing seeds, and if the embryo oil, the essential amino acid rich oil, the hemp oil, was also increased. I would almost have to guarantee it. You would think.
Well, I guarantee you that growing, living soil, rich, that's making plants grow millions of tiny white roots, absolutely does increase smells, terpenes, and cannabinoids and resin in general. Absolutely, that's true. But whether or not it can actually make other terpenes present, I've never seen any proof of that.
Interesting.
But it could boost. But you feel it would. I mean, obviously, in my experience, I was going to say that I had this conversation with Brian from Vital a couple days ago. when he was like, hey, just kind of checking in on me, and I was just catching up, and I was talking about Peter and your product as like talking about kind of like, you know, as a probiotic and an essential in the grow system, and keeping it as a key thing moving forward, and like what he's doing with his soil and vital system. And then I've seen the guys from Pharmacy Bros that have a 7-year soil. They have those what they call pomp ponchos, and they do 600 gallons, and they save the soil in the 600 gallons and you know, spend years with the same soil. Right. From these type of growers versus say even not just indoor, but other types of growers that grow in the same competitive environment, if you will, that don't spend a lot of time or have a lot of education on it. Like even, you know, like Wade's doing it as well. You know, it's like if I take something from somebody that understands the soil and understands how to grow organically, every single time the terpene percentage, overall percentage, if you will, aroma, flavor, oil content is always boosted. Cannabinoids and terpenes always come hand in hand boosted. I don't, you know, if it's the head size, if you will, or there's more heads being developed or more oil being secreted, but I see it like night and day between the growers. And
I wonder, Tony, if it'll ever get to the point where people will take a vegetative plant, grow it as big as they can, so it's just about ready to flower, and then you whack it back halfway, like they do with grapes, to produce fewer but superior grapes. I wonder if that'll ever be done with cannabis, to produce fewer heads of cannabis but more superior, or if it would be effective. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I tend to think that, and it's strange because I find with and this is, I mean, I don't want to generalize too much, but all of the varieties that I see that are grown outdoor, that are grown correctly, produce a interesting type of resin to where it's not like covered in trichomes like you see in indoor, where there seems to be like just a lot more coverage in general. Every time you see like even organic indoor, it's just flooded with trichomes. But the outdoor, they get these like juicier, bigger buds, you know, like, but it's not covered in trichomes. You still see it, but something inherently, I think that's why I always said and thought, we had this argument before, and I think I'm not sure what side of it you were on at that time, but I always felt like we were growing really big grapes outdoors. Like things were just bigger and there was just bigger oil. And maybe it wasn't so much on the outside as it is closer to the surface of the leaf, but the oil content and the terpene content, we're talking like, you know, everything's, you know, a good 2% plus. When people
I've got a new variety that I collected from Chernobyl. It grows resin heads the size of small melons.
Melons
they glow in the dark, so they're really easy to find if you drop one.
Melons or melanomas?
Both.
Well, and I was going to say, so to add to what you're talking about, the soil and things, is that I see that there's a boost in the heads, but then there's this other oil, and it's boosting terpenes inherently in the plant and on the surface of the leaf, but it's not just in the head. So I think what happens with the plant is maybe it expresses and exceeds its head count, and then if it's really healthy and really strong, it starts to produce these oils in a different way that come out very well in rosin, and they come out very well in terpene extractions. And I see the numbers are always boosted. I mean, you know, I just got a variety from Verdant that was like overall 24% cannabinoids. It was like 20% CBD and 5% THC. And he's all organic, vital, you know.
Yeah, so one of the things, Tony, that we're also seeing is, you know, the plant can only hit a certain genetic expression, right? It can only produce so many terpenes. So in growers that aren't getting a lot of terpenes, we're seeing that our bacteria will help them achieve maybe a level where you guys are already at. But when you guys get to your level, when the plant can only produce so many terpenes, what we're finding is a diversity of biology will increase more of the types. So instead of seeing like maybe 7 or 8 major terpene types, you'll see 10 or 12. And so the flavor and the aroma and the comprehensiveness of the terpenoline efficacy is just a lot more comprehensive.
And where do you think those oils are being developed?
See, that's what I don't know yet. We're still seeing that different type of
to be honest, if you don't see them in a regular plant that's not grown that way, and they're not expressed at all, even in tiny amounts, then do they have a synthase to produce that compound?
They are being produced in macro doses, so you'll have your majors, but then you'll see micro doses of the other terpenes. But when you add our bacteria, those micro doses are eligible.
Okay, that I could absolutely believe that you're making a really tiny peak grow to a bigger size. That's easy to believe.
That's what's going on. So it's a tiny peak, and now with the introduction of more bacteria, those peaks are higher.
That could certainly be. I've seen healthier soil, healthier plants, healthier roots definitely creates healthier resin, which is more terpenes and cannabinoids.
Just working with nature, man. That's it, Sam.
Well, the key there is nitrogen fixation, because the plant doesn't fix nitrogen, but the bacteria does. And so they're able to fix nitrogen. And synthases are proteins which are made of amino acids, and amino acids require nitrogen. And so those machines that make the terpenes just aren't made. They're made by, like we said before, synthases. And those synthases are basically large proteins that have to be made before you can make the terpene. Those all require nitrogen and nitrogen fixation.
Also, they require, what is
bacteria,
GGP?
Bacteria has had the time course of evolution to figure out how to fix nitrogen from the air. So let's just let the bacteria do it.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, you guys over the years have done such a good job educating the industry, getting people aware of how important terpenes are. And so I'm so humbled and grateful to be a part of maybe helping disclose how terpenes are made, which is from bacteria.
So on one thing that we hadn't covered yet, which kind of dawned upon me, maybe you guys could answer this. The plant's going as female plant, Sensimilia, it's going through its ovulation period. And we're talking about the nitrogen starting early with, most growers have this consciousness of, hey, we're going to either foliar feed or just use low levels of phosphorus and higher nitrogen when it's vegging, and then it's flipped and we're using higher phosphorus and much less nitrogen during the flowering cycle. But there is an ovulation period of which it changes, like from like day 24 and day like 36 or something, depends on the variety. But there's that ovulation period. Is there is the change in the hormone of the plant something else that's indicative of how the uptake or how this is working?
Yeah, there is. So that's a great question. One of the things that we have found with comprehensive biology attached to the rhizosphere is that the plant is actually auto-regulating its uptake. And so there's a sacred kind of communication that the root will have with its digestive system that says, hey, at this stage of my growth, of my evolvement, I'm going to need some nitrogen, or I'm going to need some phosphorus. So what will happen is it will enzymatically communicate with the biodiversity in the rhizosphere to allow them to act as almost like a chelating agent for particles such as phosphorus. So for instance, if you take the root and you've got a particle this size when you put your fertilizer in of phosphorus, the plant will enzymatically communicate with the biofilm of organisms that are creating acids to break down that phosphorus so that as it hits the root, it just kind of, it's like juicing it, you know. And so the higher awareness or communication that the plant will have with its biology to process nitrogen fixation, phosphorus solubilization, all the things that are so important to have the physics to create the terpenes, is beyond, you know, it's a naturally occurring thing that just happens when you have a biologically active soil.
Well, and phosphorus is the key element that holds DNA together, right? DNA is basically a polymer that's derived from a polyphosphate backbone. And so the actual element of DNA itself, it requires nitrogen, requires phosphorus. And so without phosphorus and nitrogen, you're starving a living system from being able to proliferate and
what I'm saying is that, you know, and to answer your question, Tony, is that once you do have a comprehensive biologically active system, you know, it's going to kind of take the guesswork out of your fertilizing variances, because it's such a dynamic, comprehensive thing to actually feed your plants or give them the right energy to grow, that there can be so many methodologies and approaches to properly fertilizing. And so again, in incorporating a healthy digestive system to your plants is going to kind of take the guesswork out of that, and make your investment in fertilizer that much more that much better.
All right. So if these products are, hold on a second. Let's see if I'm still echoing. Yep.
I just needed to mute Peter. You're fine, Tony.
Okay. So all right. So let's say I'll close my eyes and I imagine we've got the right bacteria in the right organic soil, and we've got millions of little tiny hairs that are coming out of these roots. And now we've got more of these vessels and way to communicate and uptake that information through the system in which you explained. And so, and knowing what we know about the plant now with the nitrogen and phosphorus, if there's ways to take certain types of genetics, maximize their expressions, and maybe target certain types of boosting of terpene profiles, like maybe adding a certain mineral in that period with that particular type of genetic, instead of, you know, is there a way, you know, do you think that that's what it's going to come to, is that we find this particular type of genetic, we create this living type of soil that can maximize and boost the properties in which we want?
So that's probably a Sam question, but as far as you know, my just what I feel about that is absolutely. So crossbreeding, and it goes back to biodynamic agriculture for me. So we're taking a plant that shouldn't necessarily be cultivated in a warehouse or even a soil. We're deciding to put it there. And so what you guys are doing with, you know, crossbreeding and things like that to express various genetic potentiality of the plant, in combination with something that's just been lacking for so long in this industry, which is the biology that these plants naturally co-evolved with in nature, that they're lacking in the warehouse or in the soil that they never should have been planted in the first place. And so, go ahead, Will.
I wanted to jump in for a second. I'm echoing.
Let me mute myself.
Thank you, Peter. I think something you said is really important, that by having healthy soil, a full, to use a term, the soil food web, if you will, and I think that's some of what you're doing, not to mix labels or anything, but the idea of having healthy soil, just to make it short, freeing me from having to make choices about what I'm going to feed my plants when, so that they can flourish, giving them the opportunity to go looking for what they want and need, and being able to find it in abundance where they are, frees me from the responsibility of sorting it out for them. It's what I've realized is that the different genetics, they have different moments in their growth process. That thing you were talking about where they go through the hormonal changes of ovulation and whatnot. There's an awareness, when I was working indoors, I spent a lot of time trying to understand what my plants needed when and how to feed them to get them to express optimally what they were capable of. And working outdoors in healthy soil, what I've found is that they take care of themselves. All I'm trying to do is help them have available everything they need. And your product, I've not ever used it, but I've read up on what you're doing, and I understand the concept. It's evocative of things I've read before, and I really think you're onto something where folks are not able to generate their own inputs, but want to invest in something that will help their soil be more alive, if you will. I think it's important to educate people about how to help the colonies that you're giving them continue to flourish in their gardens. But some of the best gardens I've been in are far better than what I've been able to do here. And in every one of them, those people have spent years, more than 7 usually, a number that someone else mentioned earlier, where over the years they've just added to the soil, nutrients and inputs from their farm or from their neighbors, where they know exactly what they're doing in terms of adding to the soil to see benefit. Indra was speaking about rabbit manures. One of the most beautiful gardens I've seen this year is using goat, sheep, rabbit, and chicken manures over a period of years. And his trees, their trees are literally, oh my goodness, I don't know. I don't want to exaggerate, but they're really huge. Anyway, I've gone on a rant, but the point that I'm trying to make is that that point about me not having to choose what to feed these plants over their course of their life cycle. All I do is give them water.
It kind of takes the guesswork out of it, Wade. And I'll tell you what, I'll send you a bag of the soil balance so that you can try it. And if it's okay with Marcus, I'd love to, since it's, you know, a good show, I'd love to give away 50 bags of our soil balance to his audience. We can put a link to Nathan's email, and then the first maybe 50 people that email Nathan, we'll give them a free bag of the soil balance, so that everybody can see how important biology is and how easy it can make cultivation. And that's what we're all about, is trying to help cultivators become more sustainable and utilize their budgets more effectively. And increase quality. So yeah, so if anybody wants to email Nate@soilbalancepro.com, we'll give 50 bags, if that's cool, Marcus. We didn't talk about it before the show, but
no, you can't get bags of soil away. It's great, man. That's amazing. Are you kidding me? I think people are writing that email down right now and trying to.
Well, describe what a bag does.
Yes, like billions. So 10 grams is what we're going to give away. We're going to give away 10 gram bags. So there's 50 bags that we're going to give out, and 10 grams will create 100 gallons of microbial tea. And so each gallon will contain 6 trillion microorganisms, all beneficial microorganisms. And each gallon will have 62 strains. So a 10 gram bag costs about $29, I think. I don't know what the Canadian, but we've set up to send our product into Canada. So that will create 100 gallons of microbe tea. Yeah.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's huge. That's huge.
Yeah, actually. And I'm gonna start using it, and I'm really, really happy to learn more about it. I'm really paying attention and listening to you guys and stuff. But I definitely jumped on board of that right away. Ordered my bag. It's in Canada, it's about $60. So yeah, no, it's I'm looking forward to actually utilizing your product. So once again, thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you, John. We're so grateful, man. And we really put a lot of work. We put about 10 years into going around the world and isolating strains from different ecosystems, like a rainforest and a desert. So we have some strains from deserts that will grow specifically to enhance smell. and all they need is water to proliferate through binary fission.
Well, I have an announcement that I'd like to make during all this awesomeness. As of about 20 minutes ago, my partner, my friend, my brother from another mother, Claude Sayers in Jamaica, just had his girl just gave birth to Savannah Cannabis Sayers. So welcome to the world, Savannah Cannabis. You are loved by many already.
Blessings.
Congratulations, Claude.
Blessings. That's
Indeed. Welcome to the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have a little bong rip for her. Up. He sent me the picture. I was like, when was that? He's like, 15 minutes ago. I'm like, that's amazing, dude. We're just doing Hash Church and you're watching kids be born? Oh my God. Wow. Can't ignore that.
Well, now you can't stop doing Hash Church now that we've got so many new members.
Yes. Little Savannah Cannabis. I like the name. Savannah Cannabis. It's proper.
Hey, Marcus. Forrest stopped by my place the other day, and he brought with him a little silver pin that had said Bubble Man on it. Had some really beautiful, I don't really like vape pens. I don't really use them. I've tried a bunch of them over the years, and that one I liked.
We know how you feel.
Yeah, it tasted like something. There was actual flavor there. I don't know what it was. He said, but I really like the pen. I don't know who's doing it. Is that Blue River or?
That is a collaboration that we're all doing together. Myself and Tony and Gary from UpTech. So Gary's a lot of the design. And then Tony and I are kind of R&D with the terpenes on Blue River side, with the Bubble Man brand on my side. And we all kind of came up together and created this, what we're now calling the Trinity, which makes sense because there are 3 substantial brands coming together to produce this one brand. And yeah, it's been pretty cool, dude. It's Tony's definitely been, got to give him a mad big shout out. Both him and Gary have put a ton of time and energy into this over the last like 14 months. So it's pretty fucking awesome. I'm glad you're liking it, dude.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. Like I said, never have liked really vape pens, but that changed my opinion quite a bit. So thank you, Tony. And thank you, Marcus. And thanks to the other person who...
We'll make sure we get you one if he didn't leave it with you.
As you will. Yeah, no, he kept it because he's loving it.
I think he got one for Forrest, and
yeah.
And then I'll get you one. I'll make sure you get one. It's we learned a lot of. What is wrong with you?
She wants to be a part of Hash Church, man. Just
Jeez. Wow. She's just having it. She's like, it's been 2 hours. It's Sunday. I need attention. But yeah, there's some things that we learned, like, with these particular, with the tanks I was talking about with the oil and THCA, and there's like a lot of people trying to make them at home. So with anything new, with new technology, you try to, push through different things, and you're trying to pioneer a way to get our organic oils in a device that's healthy for you, that you can vaporize with knowing that you could reuse it, and so that's
one that I would put my name on.
As well as myself, and so it has this like it has a sick element in it that's like a pumice stone, if you will, and it basically under the tank. If you take the tank, she is just super upset. Jeez. If you take like the tank itself, and if you're doing fresh frozen material, making a bubble hash, and then pressing it, you're keeping it in its like almost as raw THCA as its rawest form. and it's generally going to have a high terpene content. And so once you start getting past, come on, really? Once you start getting past 10 or 15%, and especially as you get closer to 30%, you're getting this breakout. And so not every terpene grouping does a breakout, but say like strawberry banana goo accelerates this breakout of THCA. And if you when you look at any of the posts that are taking like the rosin and the butter and you're repressing it at 130 degrees and you're separating the oil from the THCA and you're getting like 97, 98, 99% THCA, you could see the two separations done mechanically. Well, that happens inside the tank if you're not careful. And so this is things that I've learned. And next week we're putting out like a whole comprehensive video of how to, use it from the start to finish. There's little tricks and trades that have done it, because terpenes in a live rosin form and the hash and everything being organic and alive, it's what I call an active resin. And it's not in its home anymore. And it's kind of volatile in a sense where it's like, I need to find a place. And so if you mix up terpenes and you mix up rosin and you just mix it up right away, it needs time to settle and to kind of either, like Mark Scialdone said, if the tie in terpenoline, it's going to want to eat away at that rosin, and it's going to take some time. And as it's doing that, there's a little bit of organic chemistry happening there that it says, hey, I need to find my way. Give me a minute.
I'm showing the pen right now on screen share, Tony, where the oil is crystallizing in the cartridge. You can see the little crystals that I've got on the screen here. So that's THCA.
Yeah, I've got one that, so this is in its it's a beautiful color. It's creamy. It's nice and bright. But when you look at this oil, guess which one's functioning better in the tank? This one right here. Okay. And you start to look at, we did a lemon tree one, and I did some different types of processes to dial this in. But ultimately, if you're going to use the freshest, most raw, live rosin sauce, if you will, and you have a tank, then you put it in and you let it settle down and you use it right away. But if you let it sit in there, this thing will separate. The oil will come through the center pin, like straight through that center hole, which is different than anything else. And I don't mind talking about this because this is like we're trying to get a device that people can use and understand. But it's amazing because under pressure, just pressure, the terpenes are going to want to come out that hole. When I hit 15% in the first carts, all of the terpenes came out of this center.
Us too.
Yeah, a center device, and left up here was THCA. And everyone's like, well, that's a nice magic trick, but I just wanted to smoke the oil that was inside it. I'm with you. And so what we found is if you mix terpenes and rosin together, and I let it sit for like weeks, like I'll do like 35 grams to like 3 or 4 milliliters. So it's like now we found the magic numbers about 3 drops, and every drop is 2.25% terpenes. On average, you should be able to hit 10, 11%. And I feel like with a 10, 11% terpene content and a 77 to 75% overall cannabinoid profile, it's the best, potency to terpene. It's not too crazy. It's not. Yeah.
What if you took that where it's starting to crystallize there, and just heated it gently with like a hair dryer? Would the I mean, again, when I say heating it gently,
so I laugh. Wait, I laugh because that's a tip on our blog on the Bubble Man website, using a hair dryer to gently heat it up. But
the reason why I was saying is heating it gently, because if it is THCA, now you can start decarboxylating it, and it's going to build up a little bit of pressure, right?
Correct.
Right? Yeah.
Correct. But what we don't want is we don't want our oil to separate inside the tanks. But what we found is, yes, we want to have this like experience of having the freshest taste that you can, but you also need the function. And so there's a bunch of people on Instagram. I was going to talk about this today. So if you're mixing distillate or you're mixing any kind of extract with terpenes, you need to give it several days to kind of find its way. Mix it really well, let it sit 3 to 5 days. Make sure that there's no off gassing or bubbles or a volatile type of oil. Then when you put it into the tank, or if you're mixing it right away and you just want to be impatient and you put it into the tank, if you leave it with the lid off, I have these little trays, and if you leave it with the lid off for 24 hours, with the lid off itself, like that sauce you just saw me put in here, I'm waiting for it to go down. If you leave it with the lid off, not like this, but if you put it in here and you leave it with the lid off and you wait 24 hours, what happens is the sick stone, if you will, in there absorbs all of the oil in its entirety as one unit, and leaves a I wouldn't say a harder level, but it leaves a nice like kind of custard level at the top. You put your pen on, and then they never leak, and then they hit perfectly and consistently, and they never separate.
Custard, you say?
Custard. So it creates. This is like weeks.
I got some custard,
and it creates a consistent oil. If not, just a little bit of pressure, which is going to lead me to like kind of another idea, which is using a device that creates pressure from terpenes to do the separation instead of an actual press. Mm-hmm. But if you don't use it right away and you let that sit, that could separate on you. And so what we found was if you took what Scialdone was saying is if you take the say if you took a live rosin, or you took a flower rosin, and there was a gentle heat like 105 or 110 degrees to just gently warm up the extract, even if it was just 10%, and slightly activated 10 or 20%, then you get in, and then when you get back into it, you end up getting more of a gel, which kind of looks like maybe the old CO2 days. But literally every single thing will come off this pen. This was just laying sideways, but it literally works perfectly. So there's that trade-off. This one was almost halfway activated.
Little thing will come off this pen. This was just laying sideways, but it really works perfectly. So there's that trade-off. This one was almost halfway activated.
Damn, I wondered what that was. I was like, okay, that's weird. Tony sounds different now all of a sudden. I was just like not paying attention for half a second, and then Indra came in.
Hello,
he was literally in the trichomes. I'm just like, what a trip.
Yeah, so long story short, terpenes help break out THCA. It helps break out CBD. It helps break out different elements.
It also helps me get high. I find it's a very important component of feeling properly elevated from a dab. Not to interrupt you, go on.
No. That's all I was just trying to say. I was just trying to help people out there that
I think it's important, to be honest, very much so. Let's say one thing about that pen here and right now and forever. Do not plug it in with the cart attached to the battery. This is a no-no.
Yeah. So if anything with the audience that's listening, don't ever plug it in like this. Always remove the tank from the battery.
Exactly.
It's a newer type of battery that's a 14-watt sub-ohm, and it will heat up your oil very quickly. Let's put it that way, and could potentially catch fire.
Well, that's safe.
What is the pen? What is the pen retail?
$5,000 right now. It's very conscious.
No, it's $62. It's $62 retail for an empty, and you we were selling, like Gary's selling, the little 10-drop vials with the whole applicator and everything, so people can make them at home. And even for us, we're selling them with the oil in it, and we were trying to get everything down to like a live rosin. So it's but in that process, we learned, filling the tanks up and not letting them kind of sit in there for a 24-hour period would start to have the oils would want to separate. And that's really just a tip. If you're at home and you're going to use it right away, no problem. But if you were going to if you were going to try to keep it for, I don't know, a week or 2 weeks, you want to let it sit in the pen before you put the top on for just a day.
So if you guys wouldn't mind if I change the subject real quick.
No problem.
No problem. I know I'm kind of like a new friend of the group, but one of the things I was just kind of feeling right now is, every time Marcus says something, like I laugh my ass off, and it's usually so well articulated and insightful and just joyous to me, man, in my whole field. So since I've got this little bit of space, and since there's such a collective of people, I was just wondering if we could all maybe use the time in a church-like fashion to kind of send Marcus some deep gratitude, some deep appreciation for all that he has done and given of himself, of his time, of his energy, of his consciousness to all of us, and just really be so grateful for that. So that's what I'm sending to you, my friend, as a new friend. So thank you, Marcus.
Give thanks, Peter. Always gonna welcome vibes for sure.
Awesome, man. And so with that being said, I'm gonna go hang out with my kids. I love all you guys. I'm so grateful, like deeply humbled to be on such a panel with great cultivators and growers. You guys are the stewards and protectors of our lands. You guys are the light beings that we support. So thank you guys, and thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thanks, Peter. Thanks,
Peter. Peace.
Good to see you, Peter.
Good to see all you guys.
Peace.
Thanks, Soil Balance Pro, for kicking down 50 bags. For those of you that haven't sent your email, I think it's Nate. Now, Nate's in the chat room right now. Maybe he'll put his email up again. I just saw him in there. Very, very, very generous kick down 50 10-gram bags of Soil Balance Pro. Just trillions of bacteria. Just kicking down the trillions. That's generous. When your generosity gets into the trillions, whatever it is you're dealing with, that's, I mean, come on. Ridiculous. How's it going, Indra?
So, Marcus, I did a little experiment this weekend, which I think may be of interest.
You got your head put on a glandular trichome body?
Well, I decided to become a trichome. It was the only way I could stay high. And so I just gave in and became a trichome myself. I hang out with trichomes now, and that's just the way we do it here. So anyway, as far as the treating of your oil to work in the pens, a very good way to do it is to stick it in a vacuum oven, set the oven for 130 degrees, and run it for about 38 or 40 hours. And then your stuff will run in the pen like water after that. It'll all drain. It'll all work really good. It's the be-all, end-all, cure-all for your pen problem.
Where will the terpenes go?
They don't go anywhere because you only run it at 135 degrees.
They'll just stay right
and
there.
Run it low vacuum, and they just stay right there.
Is that Michael Manning?
Indra, I just wanted to mention that I have a patent on putting my face on resin heads.
Oh, you patented that?
Yeah, I did it 10 years ago. So what you're doing is you owe me exactly 23 cents at this moment.
Well, I'll send it right away. But anyway, the other thing that's what I think is a good piece of news is I took 4 plants, I cut them down, and within 10 minutes I put them in the extractor, and I extracted them. And the results are truly, truly, truly amazing. I have never smoked oil this strong in my life. This is the best stuff I've ever imbibed. It's so strong, it's not funny. It smells like a fresh flower. It tastes like it when you smoke it. It tastes like a brand new fresh flower. It's absolutely delicious, and you can pull out huge things with it. It's just the most beautiful oil, and I would say after trying this that maybe this is a new product. I think that nobody's really making on the market. It's absolutely fresh.
What's that?
The oil. I BHO'd it 20 minutes after I cut the plant down.
You did the live.
Live, truly live. And I got a drop of it freezing on a drop of water in the freezer. I'm going to try to see if I can see if it'll make a picture or if it'll, crystallize out in the thaw out period. I've mentioned that before with living oils that we made in the past from many other plants, not pot. I didn't try making it in a pot. So I'm going to be trying that with it to take a look at this live resin. But everybody who's come over, nobody has been able to take more than one good hit off of it. One good hit just plasters you like you can't believe it. It's a lot like live resin, but the terpene count, I gotta have it analyzed. The terpenes are so powerful and you can taste them in your mouth when you dab it. So I'm thinking this stuff will also work really nicely in the pen. I've got one of those pens.
Try it out. That's the beauty of the pen. You can put your own shit in it. We didn't want to put out a pen that was like locked to our, it has to, you have to get the oil every time from those guys. It's like, no, you got to be able to put your own material in.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you on that. I think being able to put your own stuff in it, that's why I extracted a very fresh one. I wanted to see if I could get around the long heat treatment or the long low vacuum treatment to make it so that it worked in the pen. Most of the oils work in the pen if you do them in the vacuum oven for 48 hours at a very low heat and not a full vacuum, a gentle vacuum. After that, they'll pour into a pen. But this fresh extraction is truly amazing. I wish you were across the border, man, because I'd love to see you take a toke of this.
I'll tell you, if I only had 5 cents for each time someone said, I wish you could come down to the U.S.
I say it 3 times a day.
Oh.
Every day, 3 times a day for 158 episodes, 7 days a week.
Shit, we're letting people in who come and bomb us and shoot us and kill us. Why can't we let Marcus in? All he wants to do is stone us.
Yeah, I'll be good. I'll do whatever. I'll follow the rules. I'm, aside from cannabis, here's the funny thing. Aside from cannabis, I'm not a huge rule breaker. My rule breaking always has to do with cannabis. It's I'm going to grow it and I'm going to smoke it and I'm going to smoke it at concerts and indoors. And I'm going to smoke it everywhere I go. I just want to smoke it everywhere I go. And so I do.
I just got the new waterproof edition so you could smoke it in the shower.
What?
I'm just totally kidding. That would be funny, right? Underwater and in the shower.
I was really, because come on.
Have you guys seen it?
Oh my God. Let Bubble Man into America. Yes.
This is the hardest.
It's hard to see what you got in your hand, Indra.
Oh, it's a nectar collector. It's an electric model, and you can get a cloud of smoke from this puppy big enough to get an entire room smoked. This thing, it's got a ceramic tip on it. You push the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's water in the top bulb. Cram it in your local.
Yeah, I got a nectar collector given to me a couple years ago by D-Nail. It was the one that you don't heat up with the torch. They had a coil around it, so you just plugged it in.
I think that's what he's got. He's got an electric one.
It's a battery-powered model, though, and you don't need a plug. You can carry it with shows with you.
Nice. I hit it a few times. I was like, this thing is just crazy. Especially because you hit giant bowls of product. You can just put that thing right into your jar of hash and just be like, that's a dangerous game. At least it was for me for the little bit that I was getting into it.
You can go through a lot of concentrate with one in a day's time.
Oh my God, yeah.
A lot.
So I guess it is Canadian Thanksgiving today. So happy Thanksgiving to all the Canadians. Well, tomorrow, this weekend, Monday, Thanksgiving, Sunday. Many Canadians will be sitting down for the Thanksgiving dinner. And so, yeah, I hope everyone has a good Thanksgiving. I hope I hope that the hash is melty that people pull out. I hope it's not this really bad third world import swag that's just like not the best product they could have made, you know?
What the hell is Thanksgiving in Canada about?
I'm thankful for, you know,
Not being an American.
That's ridiculous.
Hey,
Says
Mark,
the American. Yes.
this is Rob Clark. Just want to
Oh, hey.
congratulate you on your years of house church, bro. It's been great.
Oh, thanks, brother. Thanks. It's we're having a good time. We're just sitting around, kind of laughing, and it's actually been a pretty good conversation today. But it has indeed been 3 years, and that is kind of crazy.
Yeah, amazing. Makes me feel old. It went by awfully quick.
That's the thing. As you do get older, time goes by so much quicker.
Yes, highly
Pretty-
unfair, but true.
It is, but that's okay. You know, we're alive and we're lucky. That's the way I see it. That's the lesson I get in life every time from losing my father at a young age. He was 55. My stepmom was 49. They were killed in an accident, in a motorcycle accident. And whenever I hear people kind of being like, "Oh, you know, this is getting old," thing, I'm like, "Oh, beats the alternative," you know, being dead. They're kind of like, "Oh shit, yeah, you're right. Like it really does beat the alternative. Being alive, no matter how old you are, you're crushing it."
Well, if you believe in reincarnation, you'll get a nice, fresh, new young bod.
Yeah, or you come back as a leper on the streets of India. I think that's a bit terrifying too.
If you've been a schmuck, you deserve it.
Yeah, I guess so.
I thought you didn't believe in reincarnation.
I absolutely do not, but you know, there's a lot of folks out there who do.
He believes in deserving. He believes in just desserts. He doesn't have to believe in reincarnation to believe in that. You know, I like coming in.
He's got it patented.
He's got it patented, absolutely. He's got it patented. Well, I was going to press up a bunch of rosin today, but I'm not sure if I'm going to continue that or not.
I've been wanting to make hash for like a month and a half, but then I broke the rib. So I'm definitely going to pull out your bags, dude, and we're going to wash some resin today. And
Are you
honor
gonna-
of House Church, and thank you so much for your last 158 Sundays of your life. I've been
Dude.
doing it with you. We've ran across airports to make sure you've gotten this episode going. Sped down rows, gotten through hotels, screeched in the side things. I mean, I've been with you a long way, man.
Created internet connections when we didn't have them.
Yeah, well, listen, I think the best one by far was landing at the airport Sunday morning in Toronto and then jumping into Claude's car with 3 other Rastafarians, and it's a blizzard, and we're driving to Brampton, Ontario. And I'm in the back seat, and this, you know, Bobo's driving, straight blizzard everywhere. I'm like, this is fucking crazy. Like, I've got like 18 minutes to make it.
Do they
to
drive the
Brampton.
same way, whether there's a blizzard out or
Dude, listen, it was exactly the same way. It was insane. It was completely psychotic. They were all laughing. Bobo was kind of getting mad because I was like, dude, like, do you understand? Like, I need to do this show and I can't be dead when I do it. I have to be alive and conscious.
no problem, Bubble Mac. Yeah.
Oh, bro, I'm gonna get you there, blood. I'm gonna get you there. I'm like, all right. Well, you know what? And in Bobo's defense, he absolutely got me there. It was the shortest hash church we ever did because the internet ended up cacking out. I think we got 17 minutes that episode of Hash Church.
Remember the one in the grill where we could only find one spot on the corner post?
Dude, are you kidding me?
And people had to share the spot. There was little chairs that were built out of wood. I was like, "Oh, what's this?" And you're like, "Well, we better sit here early." I'm like, "What do you mean?" You're like, "Well, sit down. We got to secure our internet position." And we just hold it down right there in that one foot by 1 foot spot.
I took it further. I asked a few people if they wouldn't mind not going online while we were using the internet because we were streaming everything. And, oh yeah, okay, no problem.
And trying to explain Hash Church in 2 sentences is tough. Like,
Yeah.
It's like, what's it for, man? And that one guy, you were like, well, it's for Hash Church. He's like, Hash Church. You're like, yeah, Hash Church. And he's like, oh. And there's always that like moment where they're like, it just doesn't compute.
Yeah. Well, it's two strange words to put together, right? It's once again, I always got to shout out Amir, my good buddy Amir, who had a restaurant across from me at the Melting Point called Rhyme, and that's where we did the original church, you know. And so after 20 years go by, and it's much hash, and everything's about hash, the stream had to be named Hash Church. So that's really kind of the birth of Hash Church. YouTube letting me stream. Amir and my friends gathering on Sundays for what we just called church. Back then, it was still the Prohibition land, so we weren't going to call it Cannabis Church or Weed Church or anything that made it stand out that we could be talking about it and then get ourselves into trouble. But that quickly changed, and here we are, Hash Church every Sunday for the last 3 years and a couple of weeks. -1, I was camping. It happens, you know. Hey, how about a shout out to Roger Waters? He's coming to town in Vancouver. I don't know where you guys are all from, but if you hear that Us and Them is coming to your town, I would definitely not miss it. It's definitely going to be like a serious experience. Buddy sets the bar pretty high. I would say it goes beyond just any concert. And I'm quite excited to be going to both nights in Vancouver on the 28th and 29th of October this month. I never get to go do anything. So as a father of a 3-year-old and teenagers, I'm stoked to go out and be at a concert and just enjoy some Roger Waters, some Pink Floyd vibes.
That sounds like amazing. I wish I could join you. I'm gonna get one. Now.
They just started talking about the obscurity in the show with how it's relating to Trump in the news. If you haven't noticed, remember when I went and I told you, I was like, hey, bros, you're like, oh, yeah, you went to Pink Floyd. Yeah, I'm getting ready to go there. And like afterwards, it was like just a whole different experience, because it's like I wasn't expecting an entire concert and campaign to be geared up bashing the president in a I mean, with shots along the way, like you're like, okay, cool, we're
dude. This is a guy that wrote a whole album about his mom. Like he's holding a grudge, dude. He's not holding that shit back.
Bro. There's giant
filled with
pigs in the air, like floating around. I mean, there's cities built around it. Like even when the Money song came on, you're like, okay, a classic. You're like, Money. It's like back and forth, and like it still like has references to the Kremlin and Trump. Like it's pretty intense. It's a
political rally.
It's political.
Well, he's a pretty powerful political, you know, voice in that whole realm, and you know what he's saying is not what people want to be hearing. So, or at least certain people, and then a whole other people want to. Yes, Michael.
I want to just pop on here. If it is the last one, I wanted to smoke a bowl on here. I never see anybody smoking a bowl. I keep it old school for the most part. You know, I work with all these wonderful extracts and everything, but you know, that's how I started, and that's what I go to when I hey, there we go. Johnny B's got a bowl. So I'm smoking a bowl on Hash Church, you know, just old school.
I love the way you guys look split perfect. Like the mic was right in the middle of the panel. You guys both got the black shirts, the bald heads, the nice headphones. It's
well, Tony had me go get the headphones so we could try this dual headphones.
Yeah,
like it's the last chance.
I've had them for 158 episodes and not
never used
once. Have I? Oh well, I did dual headset with Steve D'Angelo, but it was so loud we didn't get to use it. But I told him, I was like, man, I got the mic, I got the headsets. He's like, really? I'm like, yeah, I get the headset.
Yeah, we had Steve D'Angelo on Hash Church, and he never said a word. We watched you guys on mute the whole time.
Hey, this isn't the last one, is it?
I just saw Tony.
This is the This Is It tour. So this starts the This Is It.
Oh, I got you. This is the latest final tour of Hash Church.
Well, this is basically
the first final tour.
Basically, what this is
this is Hash Church with no makeup. We might do a whole makeup tour.
Yeah, exactly. This is
Hash Church live on stage.
Basically, he's gone 158 episodes. It's gone on unbelievably in all locations, and sometimes a man needs a Sunday, and so we all need Sundays. And so, what's he saying?
There it goes.
Nice. And that's it. I'm going to stop the broadcast on that. Thanks for coming out, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye. There'll never be another time. Bye. Peace. Oh, fuck. Yeah,
like
Sean.
I think Hash Church is breaking down from its sober foundations, and we have to get right back on the track. Bong rip.
You know what I wanted to do was I wanted to stop all this cannabis ridiculousness and start Booze Church. Because let's be honest, booze is the real deal. It's medicinal, it's recreational, it's good for the children. Nobody ever said that.
Takes my pain away right away.
Takes my pain away.
If you want to have 10 million viewers, start Booze and Football Church. There you go.
Yeah, that's what you should do is just have Hash Church and review football.
No, we're going to change it to Boob Church. That will actually get us more viewers.
You know what? You might be right. You might be right. But I don't think that we'll have any of our respected, esteemed colleagues showing up anymore, like Hillary Black or Dr. Natasha.
No, they wouldn't. They wouldn't do it at all.
They're going to be out. They're going to be like, sorry, guys. We just we lost all respect for everything you were doing when you started Booze Church.
And by the way, I think on that note, we should also pay some serious respect to the ladies, because I think one of the top 10 best episodes is when there was all women's Hash Church.
Easy, top 5.
Yeah, top
in the top 3.
Yeah, it was pretty impressive because it was like CNN took over Hash Church with all of these like professional broadcasters, researchers, doctors, and really made us all look a little just kind of like we're barely holding it together, guys.
Well, even the way they keep
like it was just like wow.
Every single one was framed perfectly. You know, you didn't see tons of shit behind them. They all had like these perfect frames, like they were like news anchors. I was like, holy shit. The ladies are crushing it.
But not only that, it was the amount of information per square inch, if you will. Like when we talk about lumens, there wasn't a slow draw, or we had to come to a conclusion together, or like we talked about it. It was
perfect segues.
I know.
No interruptions.
Like, no interruptions, and just full on machine gun information. Like it was like, we're live here down in Mexico after the earthquake, and blah, 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 we're gonna go here. It was like wow. So the amount of information that got pushed, incredible. I thought it was like an incredible unity, and people need to understand that the future of cannabis is going to have a lot of women in it, and it should. I think it brings a good harmony between the two approaches of our industry. But hats off to the women that did that episode. One of the best Hash Churches.
It's already full of a lot of women. Some of the best growers that I have met in the past 2 or 3 years have been women. Some women have turned me on to some of the best buds I've ever had my hands on, including back in Vietnam days. And I wasn't even going to grow anymore. I gave up last year because I'm getting old and it gets hard to do. But this year I grew a dozen plants, and wait till you see the one. It looks like somebody spray painted it with glitter. And I used my years-long scenario to do it with rabbit poo. There's rabbit poo and rabbit poo tea were the only additives in it. And we smoked one last night, and it just puts you in another headspace.
You smoked rabbit poo last night, or what did you smoke?
Well, literally, I guess, because the rabbit poo made the terpenes and it made the trichrome heads, and that's what I was burning. So I guess I was having rabbit poo red.
That's awesome.
So anyway, there's some of my stuff in the background there. You like it?
Yep. Oh, when you're putting your oil, real quick, I did want to say this because this is really important. When you put the oil in the pen, John, or anybody that's out there, just like when you're hitting a bong, you would pull, then you would light your bowl, then you would hit your bong, then you would clear it, and you would never leave like a stale bong. So like the same thing with this is you want to pull, press, get whatever hit you want, let go, clear it, and when if you use your finger, it doesn't really matter, but whatever size your hit is. But for oil, especially when you're using live resin, like a BHO, something that's real runny, you have to be able to let the tank cool down And do that by putting your finger here. And if it's still warm to the touch, don't hit it again. Just pull cool air through it just over and over until it's cool. So there were people that were using these tanks for like live resins and 20 and 30% oils and things like that, but they're hitting it over and over and over, and the tank will run hot. And it's not like a wick. It's not a wicking system. So I just wanted to let you know that before, in case this was
there's a hole in the bottom you have to be conscious of.
You just got to be conscious of it.
It's just like everything in nature. There's a hole in the bottom that stuff drains out of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if the stuff's too thick, it don't drain.
Well, mine is always, if you do it exactly like that, you'll always have a clean bottom, just like always clean. I always pull cool air through it every time after every hit.
That's what Mom said when she was teaching us about wiping, about the clean bottom.
Yep. Exactly the same thing.
Everything in life is a clean bottom. But let me tell you, Tony, if you run it in the vacuum oven for 48 hours at 135, you will be amazed.
This one, that's what that is right there.
Yeah.
It's a totally different oil. It's unbelievable. Exactly what you said. This is like a low heat,
Yeah, I know. I've done it quite a few times. And I know it's a very good method. And if you've got a specially resistant oil, like sometimes when you do VHO, you'll get it come out and it'll look like an iceberg, or it'll just be solid as a rock. Then you raise it to 149 degrees for the 48 hours, and it'll get motile again.
Hey, Indra, have you checked out that new Ken Burns documentary? I know you're always mentioning Vietnam and your time in Vietnam, the new Vietnam documentary. I just started watching it. It seems amazing. I don't know if you've seen any of his other documentaries, but it's intense. 18 hours.
Yeah, it's. I mean, if you were there, I was there for 31 months. I was a combat field medic. So I'm never in a hurry to see pictures again. I've got about 2,000 pictures, 35 millimeter, that I brought back from Vietnam with me and I've never looked at them once. I brought them back and I gave them to my mom, and she put them in a box. And I never felt like I wanted to see. I didn't even want to look at the pictures of my friends, because every single person I was with there died there. I was the one person who went in a company and got back out. And so I've never felt drawn. When I look at that stuff, it's like something gets stiff inside of me, because going through that experience, I think what saved me and made me not crazy and not want to kill myself like so many guys did, because when you came back, the country didn't accept the responsibility for it. They left it on the shoulders of the veterans. And so a lot of them started killing themselves. But soon after I came back, I picked up some hippies hitchhiking, and they took me to a party where they were passing out LSD. And I was there for about a week, high on LSD. And afterwards, I thought to myself, well, Vietnam, that's a memory now, isn't it? So I don't really look to re-experience it again. My way of dealing with it was finding my center in the universe that weekend, tripping on acid, and I truly did find my. We were at a house in the Hollywood Hills, 3-story house, and they brought me in on the bottom floor, gave us acid. I started passing out Vietnam joints. Everybody was really plastered, and I ended up on the 3rd floor, and everybody was talking about their first acid trips, and I hadn't had one, so they made sure that I did have one. And it was a dome on the roof up there, and you could see it at night. It was quite amazing. Never forget it. And that memory sort of supersedes the Vietnam stuff, I can remember guys in Vietnam on guard duty taking acid, which I didn't, that wasn't something that I was interested in doing there. I did smoke probably 2 bales of marijuana while I was there, hay-sized bales of marijuana at least. And I sent a lot back to my mom in Panasonic and Sanyo refrigerators, because they didn't have customs in those days, and you could send anything directly back. They did have customs, but if you were on a combat soldier, you didn't have to go through customs. Your mail went direct. So I started sending my mom Sanyo refrigerators packed with Buddha stick and a lot of seeds. And by the way, one of the plants that I grew this year is the one that has these amazing trichomes. They're even on the bottom of the leaf, as thick as they are on the top. You look on my Instagram account, I've been posting pictures of this particular leaves and plants on this. It's a green one, but it's covered with trichomes everywhere. I've never seen the trichomes so thick on the bottom and the top. I wish Bubble Man was here because I'd like to take some buds out of this particular stuff and make bubble hash out of it. It's so beautiful. The trichomes are just thick as flies everywhere all over it. And that was one of the seeds that I brought back. And it was a random seed I picked out. I just stuck my hand in the little jar that I've got and pulled this one seed out. And there it is. And I didn't make any cuttings of it or anything either, sadly. But such is life.
Such is life. Such is life. Sometimes that's how it goes. Sometimes you take cuts off everything. Sometimes she gets lost. Other times we're so desperate, you bring her back.
Yeah, I put some male keef on one of the bottom branches on it, but even then it's going to be a different kind of a plant that the seed will be. It won't be this very same plant. But anyway, maybe we'll see.
True.
Well, what a heavy heart. This is the last day. But I understand, you've made a long sacrifice in behalf of everyone else's consciousness. And one of the best things I ever heard from a guru in my life, which would be a good thing for you, was I was struggling at the time learning anatomy. And my teacher said to me, if you want to learn a thing, teach it. And you'll hear every question there is, and you'll learn it more thoroughly than any other person could have taught you. And I think that's what you've done, Bubble Man. You've taught, and in that teaching, you've learned yourself a great deal. And so
I couldn't deny that. I've definitely learned a lot sitting here and listening to everyone talk and being a part of the conversations for the last 3 years. I have definitely learned a lot. I'm coming out this end with a lot more knowledge than I went into it, for sure. That's what I love about it, just like everyone else.
Shit, I've learned so much from Mass Church and everyone that's been on this panel and all the viewers and all the people that input everything from when we started learning the static dry sifting, when Dee was doing the carding and triculture sticking on the back of the iTunes card, and just how everything just kind of, there's all these little steps and all these little things that have happened over the years with everybody that's been involved and all the other people. It's been pretty awesome, dude. I've had a fantastic time. I mean, shit, we've learned. Everybody here has learned. It's been one of the best things of that's happened for me over the last 3 years, for sure. Meet you, my brother. Yeah, it's another thing that's been just fantastic. Big part of life here.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Peace out to Bingo Lombardi, who's split in chat. He's going to hang out on his birthday. Have a good birthday, dude. At the Renaissance Fair. Interesting. That'd be probably kind of trippy.
All over the world, the people that are in chat. Where's everybody at in chat? Tell us where you're from right now. That'd be cool. Let's say, how many people? Where are we from? Where's everybody from?
Absolutely. Yeah, well, we'll see. People are tripping in the chat room. They're like, oh my God, is this the last Hash Church ever? I never said that it was. I just said that I might stop doing it. That I'm just, if it's hard to try and organize and get everyone excited about a conversation each week. There's been all these little blows that have occurred over the years, and Hash Church doesn't get quite the views that it used to get. It's probably getting half the amount of views that it used to get. So, these were all things that I took into consideration. And obviously, we're not just doing it for views, but I like the idea of knowing that like thousands, tens of thousands of people were seeing an episode. And, now if we do an episode, we might get 5,000-6,000 views over the course of the couple of weeks. So. We'll see what happens. I haven't by any means. It's a good idea that Tony had. So if we don't come back, we did a wrap up episode. We went through some of the history and some of the important conversations that we had, and yeah, it's cool.
Look, this serves a lot of different purposes. There's a girl who does a channel called Digging Brit, where she's got a super voluptuous body and she barely wears anything. She goes around with a metal detector and a spoon, and she gets 1 million hits a week. But those million people who hit on that show are there for one reason: to see Digging Brit bending over and digging with the spoon. Here, the 5,000 or 6,000 people to see it are people that figure into our society, into our culture in a big way. We're not just getting people here who are goggling at our TNA, you know. So I would say if 5,000 viewers are a lot more important in this particular case than 1 million viewers who are there just watching somebody's body.
You mean overall influence, the spread.
Yeah, overall influence that this show has.
Well, I'm not going to take the old churches down. Someone's like, oh, don't take the videos down. No, the videos are up. They're there to stay. You know, if YouTube ever decided to take them down, I'd put them up on the bubblemanbrand.com website and people could go watch them over there. Like they're secured. They're good to go. The past will never be lost in that sense. And the future is the future. We'll see what happens next Sunday. We'll see if people have ideas and want to talk about things, you know. Otherwise, it's just
I have an idea. What if you like go through and have some crazy dude edit him, like go back and like edit like a series and take out like all of key important conversations and discussions and chat
like they do with basketball games.
Yeah, exactly.
They're like the whole basketball game in 5 minutes.
This week on Hash Church. Well, Hash Church came out swinging hard this week on Hash Church. They were puffing terp sauce 9 minutes into the episode.
They just
yeah, it's like 9 minutes and 32. Wade goes off on, you know, blah blah blah. Like pull all these key moments, and I mean, because it's a lot of footage. It's like anything else. This was filmed live. And then, like, if you film anything in life live, you edit, you know, you edit it down. So maybe somebody out there wants to start editing the hash collection so you could keep it, you know. I mean, you don't have to edit it all out.
Yeah.
Which crazy dude would you suggest, since we have such a plethora of crazy dudes available to us?
It's going to take years. So that way what can happen is it's the legacy edit versions. Somebody would have to work on that for years.
I'm surprised nobody's doing it already. Like they're on YouTube, so people are definitely downloading them and stuff like that. You know,
what people would really notice is if this conversation stopped, they would notice like, oh, weird. Like, where do you go to find this shit out now? Like, where do you go to like kind of have this cutting edge? Like what? Because trust me, it's not like the scene's gonna stop. All this stuff's still gonna keep happening. It's just been really neat that it's been happening in this little circle of people that have been really pushing and promoting it, pushing the envelope on a lot of these different conversations. From Soil Grown with Rosin, from, you know, Tony and Horatio with the terpenes, and you know, with all of us with all of our different areas of expertise. It's been interesting to say the least.
Well, there'd be a lot less people making good bubble hash. Listen, I've been getting really good bubble hash from Eureka for $60 to $80 an ounce. Really light, beautiful stuff. Really crazy stuff. And then I pressed it in my Tarek X little tiny press to make fresh rosin with it.
Right.
And some of the most beautiful bubble hash. Some of it's almost like a sponge. You pick it up, the whole thing just soft. And once it starts melting,
melts in your bowl, not in your hands.
Yeah, well, melts in your mind, right?
Yes.
But there's a lot of it this year because there's going to be a lot of pot because a lot of people started growing. California is rife with pot right now, and it's going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting. We're going to see some price drops this year as all these crops come due, and for some reason or other, it seems like everybody's having a bumper crop at the same time. I've talked to a lot of friends. I've been to a couple of farms, and man, everything looks like gangbusters. And by the way, Mr. Harlequin, I've got a little stash of pure CBD oil for you and for forest, a pint maybe, and it's.
What a blessing! Thank you. Thank you.
I winterized it, and it's absolutely clean. I got all the paperwork from SC Labs. Every test it could do was done on it. It's nothing but it's just the good stuff. It's got 0.04 THC in it.
What a blessing. Does Forrest know how to get a hold of you, Indra?
I don't know, but Indra108 at Yahoo will get a hold of me real easy. Or also, I've got the website, Pure Extracts Inc. And,
Pure Extracts Inc.
Yeah.
Look for an email from Wade at House of Harlequin.
Yeah, I want to get it to you guys. It's about a pint, and it's really beautiful stuff. And let me tell you, I've been using it myself. I've got 2 titanium cages in my back from being wounded in Vietnam, and sometimes they cause me a tremendous amount of pain and limit my mobility. And I've been taking about 1/8 of a teaspoon in the morning and 1 at night of this CBD oil, and really been pain-free. I mean, I get up, walk around. I forgot to take my cane with me. I went to town, went shopping, all because I've had this particular CBD for the past month and a half. And I can't describe it, but it's a tremendous feeling of well-being that I get within just 10 or 15 minutes of, I just dip my plastic spoon in it and I get 1/8 of a teaspoon out, put it in my mouth on my tongue and swallow it. And 15 minutes later, I feel like I want to go do something. Like I'm not thinking, well, gee, if I go out, am I going to run out of energy, or am I going to have to sit somewhere and rest and recover from my back? I just go and do it. And I think this CBD oil, for some reason, is very potent. And that's why I really want to get it to Forrest. If it can help me not feel the pain that I live with daily, I'm more, I think it must be good for those kids. And so anyway, I get it really cheap by the kilo. I winterize it, and I got a pint of it for you. And it's just
thank you, Indra.
It does the job. It does the job, and
it will bless many people's lives. Yeah, we'll use it for sure.
Well, I hope a pint will last you for a while. I'll get some more, but winterizing it, it's 90% of it is plant fat and stuff, so you get a 10% yield out of it. It's just a lot of muck to handle to get down to the 10.8% pure CBD. But I don't mind doing it for those kids. I mean, I'll wade through a mile of muck to help some kids feel better.
I understand the feeling, and I'm glad you're getting benefit from it. That's kind of the way I experience dosing with CBD. It's not really about a buzz so much as just a sense of well-being.
Yeah,
yeah.
I can't believe the difference it makes in my everything. It makes in my attitude, makes how I feel, how I'm dealing with other people. If you're in pain all the time, you're always biting that back, And believe me, I was in pain since 1968 when I got wounded. I've been in pain ever since then until now. Maybe that's one of the things that's kept me alive, because I've never been comfortable enough to die. But this CBD oil has brought me great comfort and solace. I couldn't believe in the beginning. I was a bit, like everybody was like, I was like, well, I haven't seen any evidence of that yet. But this is the first time I got a hold of any in a pure quantity, and other than some crystals that the guys give me from Guild Extracts all the time when I go by their booth. And that gave me a relief too. But this stuff, this oil, a 1/4 teaspoon of it, and then an hour later, you feel like Mother Teresa on a good day, and you're just dispensing love. You feel so much better. Like you said, it's not a high. It's a high of state of mind, because your endocannabinoid system is beaming energy back to your brain, because that's where it's all connected to, and it's saying, hey, guess what? We got stash.
Yeah. I think of, tell you a funny little thing about it. I think of most cultures have some sort of psychoactive substance that they consume. Sometimes it's alcohol, sometimes it's tobacco, sometimes it's mushrooms, sometimes it's cactus, sometimes it's vines, sometimes it's roots. But pretty much every culture has some sort of psychoactive thing they get up to. And one of the things that's interesting is that virtually all of those cultures have shamans or guides who take the initiates into that process of psychoactivity. And I think cannabis is one of the plants that we use for its psychoactivity. But part of what happened over the years is that by breeding just for psychoactivity, we bred out CBD. And CBD was kind of the built-in shaman that was supposed to come along for the ride. I think back when I first smoked cannabis, it had CBD in it. It was Jamaican. Jamaican Yarders has CBD in it. I know DJ Short was pretty convinced part of what he was looking for in cannabis was to replicate some Mexican cannabis that he'd had back in the 60s down in when he was at the university down there. And he was pretty convinced that, yeah, it was like equal amounts CBD and THC. And so I don't know that it's an essential part of what cannabis can do for humans, but I think it's an important part. And what I think is coming because of comments like what you just made is that increasingly people will start recognizing cannabis not just for its inspirational or recreational or even medicinal, but just for the sense of well-being that can come from it. What you were saying earlier, Marcus, about when you feel good, it's hard to feel bad when you feel good. When the pain stops, you don't feel like biting back at things that happen in your life. Pain, especially chronic pain that just goes on and on and on, never stops. It's hard, you can't get away from it. So blessings, thank you for the opportunity to rant.
CBD is definitely a bus ticket away from pain. There's no question about that. And by the way, Marcus, we're taking it out this morning. I recently, because of viewers listening to Hash Church, they sent me a giant box of roots.
Nice.
And we took all those roots, ground them up, and we put them in the chamber and extracted them. And so we're going to have the very first marijuana root oil. And I want to make sure that Dr. Natasha gets a bit of it to examine and or look at. And if anybody wants to do any research with it, I want to make small amounts of it available to people, because I don't think there's been anybody that's done a full-on root extract. And to make sure that we got it, we left it in the chamber like 24 hours to make sure we got every single possible volatile out of the roots. And it was quite a bundle of roots, let me tell you. You know, it came in a 2.5 foot square box. And well, Natasha was talking about how in all the old books, it talks about the many uses for marijuana roots. All the different kinds of medicines and poultices and whatever that they made with it back when, before people had an opinion about the THC part of it. So I was talking about that a few times, and somebody contacted me and asked me if I wanted some, and I said yes. So here they are, and now I've extracted it.
I suspect it'll be high in triterpenoids.
We'll see. I want to. Hey, Sam, I don't know. I don't think I could send it to you, but I'd send you some. Maybe if there's no THC in it, if you were even interested. Anyway, gee whiz, last show, I guess, or sort of the last show. Funny place to come up with brand new information, but
you never know. You never know. Could be.
It'll be interesting seeing what's in it. There's been a lot of speculation about it, so I did it. So now we'll find out.
I remember years ago, probably as early as like 99, 2000, I made bubble hash from stems. Just all the stems, not stems cut from buds either, but like whole plant stems, like long branches. I just cut them all up into little 1/4-inch sections, and then I ran the whole batch, and I got this like white bubble. It was the lightest fucking color bubble ever that came off the stems, and it was pretty good. It was melty. It was powerful. It had taste. It was hard to wrap my head around that there was resin on stalks that could be. That's when I actually, not too long after, probably within 5 years or so, I started trying to photograph stems and get closer to see what kind of trichome content they had on there. And I've seen them covered and I've seen them sparse, both ways.
Dude, when you showed me the picture of when the seed, when we said when the leaf just came out of the seed and had a trichome, I was just amazed. That was one of those pictures that you showed me. I was right there. You took that picture. It's
definitely one most people did not know, that the glands are on the plants from the beginning, because they're all like, oh, I only spray in veg. And it's like, really? Because it's like, you're still spraying trichomes. You understand that, right? Well, those trichomes won't even, they're going to fall off. Those leaves will long have fallen off. It's like, all right, well, whatever you say.
Well, that's why there's trichomes in the center of your bud, right? Because they fall off. It's like, of course they start. It's cool to see though, man. Really, really cool to see.
Something different anyway. I don't know. I think I'm gonna call it a day here, guys. It's been just under 3 hours. I'm definitely anxious to get out and enjoy my Thanksgiving day with my family here. And I'm, as always, would love to thank everyone. If this does happen to be the last Hash Church, I would absolutely like to thank everyone that's ever appeared as a panelist and shared their time with us, as well as, of course, the core group of people that seem to be here more often than anyone. We do appreciate you, and all the people that have watched over the last 3 years. It's been a good trip. You may see us next week. You may not see us next week. It's all up in the air, really. Don't worry about it too much. Go have yourself a wonderful week. Grow some weed, smoke some resin, sniff some terps, and I guess I'll finish it how I like to finish my wake and bakes. May the full melt bubble bless your bowl sooner than later.
Thank you, Marcus.
Peace out, everybody.
Thanks.
Peace
Thank
out.
you.
Good, thanks, Marcus. Good, thanks, Marcus.
There we go.
Stand up.
Church. Oh, standing ovation. Standing ovation. Peace out, everybody.